Chapter 4804. In the past few decades, the creatures of the three forbidden lands had not taken any action, and had been mining resources. But on this day, the Heaven Destroyer detected that the creatures of the three forbidden lands had begun to mobilize and gather. This made the Quasi-Saint tribe, Celestial tribe, Heaven Destroyer, Fiend race, and other forces nervous. The creatures of the three forbidden lands had suddenly mobilized and gathered their experts. What were they trying to do? Could it be that they were going to attack the various forces? This made them nervous. The various forces immediately gathered all their forces and prepared for a great battle. If it really didn't work, they could only abandon a part of their territory. But it soon proved that the various forces were thinking too much. The creatures of the three forbidden lands did not want to attack the various forces. They were heading towards a place together. That place was the 1,000 Years Battlefield's Halo world. That's right, the goal of the creatures of the three forbidden lands was the Halo world. The various forces sent out a large number of spies to pay attention to the movements of the creatures of the forbidden lands, and to send back information at any time. The creatures of the three forbidden lands met in the Halo world, and the three parties even started a great battle. It seemed that they were fighting for the Halo world. This made the experts of the various forces have many guesses in their hearts. The creatures of the three forbidden lands were fighting for the Halo world. Could it be that there were some secrets in the Halo world? They originally thought that the Halo world was only a place where the human king's body was sealed. Could it be that there were other secrets? After the creatures of the three forbidden lands fought, they all suffered losses and no one could do anything to each other. In the end, they seemed to have reached some kind of agreement and planned to explore the Halo world together. However, when they sent people to enter the Halo world, they were repelled by a powerful force. No matter what method the creatures of the three forbidden lands used, it was useless. They were all repelled by the Halo world. They were unable to enter the Halo world. When Lu Ming and the others heard this news, they were also stunned. Last time, they were able to enter the Halo world smoothly. Only Origin Realm experts could enter. This was because the halo around the Halo world could absorb the origin roots of Origin Realm experts. But it had no effect on those below the Origin Realm. And the creatures of the three forbidden lands did not have any Origin Realm experts. The ones they sent were all below the Origin Realm, but they were repelled. What was going on? Could it be that some changes had occurred in the Halo world recently, and produced a special defensive power that prevented the creatures of the outside from entering? Or was it purely against the creatures of the three forbidden lands? Lu Ming and the others could not help but guess. But soon, the second guess was overturned. It was because the creatures of the three forbidden lands had guessed the same thing. Later on, they took action, capturing some creatures from the forbidden lands, and having them try to enter the ring world. However, it was useless, and they would also be blasted out by a powerful force. From the looks of it, something must have happened to the world of Halo during this period of time. It's difficult for any living being to enter. It seems that we still underestimated the Halo world. In addition to sealing the human king's torso, the Halo world has other secrets. Lu Ming and the group sighed. On top of that, it was most likely a huge secret. Otherwise, it would not attract the attention of the people of the three forbidden grounds. In the following period of time, the beings of the three forbidden lands used all kinds of methods, but they were unable to enter the world of light, nor were they able to take it away. The beings of the three forbidden lands could only send out a portion of their powerhouses to guard the perimeter of the Halo world while the others continued to mine for resources. In the blink of an eye, another few decades passed. The creatures of the three forbidden lands still could not find a way to enter the Halo world. However, they did not have the slightest intention of giving up. They still sent people to guard the Halo world, and continued to study it. Obviously, they valued the Halo world very much. This made the Heaven Destroyer, Fiend, Quasi-Immortal, and Celestial race very curious. They wanted to know what secrets the Halo world contained. Unfortunately, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands naturally would not tell them, so they could not guess. In these few decades, Lu Ming was still trying his best to comprehend the 3000th ancient secret technique. It had to be said that the 3000th ancient secret technique was too difficult. It was as if there was a mysterious power shrouding it, preventing Lu Ming from comprehending it. If he wanted to comprehend it, he had to break through the layers of fog. Although Lu Ming already had some ideas before, he still had a long way to go to completely comprehend it. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he suddenly received a message from Lion, saying that there was something important to discuss. Lu Ming ended his cultivation and came to the meeting hall. He found that many people had already arrived. Xian Yinqing, Rong Jin, Tang Jian, Tang Jun, and others. Now, almost all the higher-ups of the Heaven Destroyer were present. After Lu Ming arrived, Gu Changfeng also arrived. Lion, why did you gather us here? Is there something important? Could it be that the creatures of the primordial divine mountain are about to attack? Gu Changfeng asked straightforwardly. No, this time it's for another matter. Not long ago, our Heaven Destroyer people found a strange place when looking for the human king's heart. Lion said. Could it be related to the human king's heart? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and couldn't help but ask. The others' eyes also lit up. If they found the human king's heart, it would be a big deal. No, unfortunately, Lion shook his head and said. Our people found a strange void. That void was very chaotic and filled with cracks. In the cracks, treasures flew out. Treasures flew out of the cracks in the void? Lu Ming and the rest were taken aback. All of them revealed curious expressions. Yes, the treasures that flew out of the cracks in the void were different. Our people obtained a lot of desolation crystals and some precious metal materials that could be used to refine origin-grade divine weapons. Later on, we even obtained a few jade talismans. Unfortunately, the jade talismans were sealed by a seal, so we couldn't see the contents. However, we can guess that they must be from the previous era. Lion continued. This time, Lu Ming and the others were even more curious. All kinds of treasures could fly out of the cracks in the void. Could it be that there was a treasure trove inside? Or was it an important place from the previous era that was sealed in the void? Unfortunately, it was discovered by the people of the primordial divine mountain not long after. The creatures of the primordial divine mountain wanted to monopolize that area and fought with our people. We lost dozens of experts. But later on, we don't know how, but the news spread out and people from other forces knew about it. Now the creatures of the heavenly human race and the dark pit demon mountain have also rushed to that place. The creatures of the quasi-sage race and the Tsangming Sea also know about it and are also rushing there. The matter is a little serious, so I called you all here to discuss it. Lion said. Chapter 4805. That place must be extraordinary. This was the conclusion that Lu Ming and the others came to after their discussion. Otherwise, the quasi-saint race, heavenly human race, and other creatures of the forbidden areas wouldn't have gathered there after hearing the news. They might know something. In the end, Heaven Destroyer decided to send experts to check that place out. Various forces were gathering there. That place might be extraordinary and might contain great opportunities. If they missed it and the other forces obtained great opportunities, the gap in their strength would become bigger and bigger. In the current situation, they could only continuously increase their strength to protect themselves. Otherwise, they would be wiped out sooner or later. Then they informed the demons of this news. After the demons knew about it, they also sent a large number of experts to that area with Lu Ming and the others. That area was relatively close to the territory of Heaven Destroyer and Prime Divine Mountain. That was why they discovered it first. That is, although they were mentally prepared, Lu Ming and the others were still shocked by the scene in front of them when they arrived. This was a void space. There were no continental fragments in the surrounding area. However, this void space was in chaos. The void was full of cracks that crisscrossed and densely packed. It was unknown how many of them there were. Terrifying energy was surging out from every single fissure. Moreover, each crack was filled with a strange multicolored light. This multicolored light was purple gold and dazzling. However, it emitted a terrifying pressure. The area occupied by this area was very wide. Lu Ming and the others stopped in the distance. Around this area, there were already many living beings. Lu Ming saw the living creature from the primordial divine mountain at a glance. There were about 1,000 of them from Prime Divine Mountain. Each of them had a head full of luminous hair and an oppressive aura. This was not simple. One had to know that there were only about 3,000 creatures from the forbidden area of Prime Divine Mountain. Now there were more than 1,000 of them. It was obvious that this area was not simple. Among the creatures of the forbidden area of Prime Divine Mountain, many of them looked at Lu Ming and the others with cold killing intent. Among them, Lu Ming saw the purple-robed young man. The purple-robed youth's eyes fell on Lu Ming, his killing intent not concealed at all. However, Lu Ming only glanced at the living beings of the Prime Divine Mountain, before turning his gaze elsewhere. He saw the powerful beings of the heavenly human tribe, led by the Yi Immortal. There were thousands of them. In addition, he also saw the creatures of the Dark Pit Devil Mountain. The living beings of the Dark Pit Devil Mountain called themselves the Dark Yin race. Their bodies were shrouded in a dense dark yin qi. Their bodies were constantly changing, as if they were illusions. It was extremely bizarre. There were also about 1,000 baleful yin beings from the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. The four forces were scattered in 4 different directions. They waited quietly and did not make a move. Their attention was quickly attracted by the void. Rumble. Loud rumbling sounds could be heard coming from those cracks in the void. Then, the purple gold light that seeped out of the crack became even more intense. Watch out. Treasures are about to fly out of those cracks. Lion reminded. He had been here before, so he had some experience with this place. Swoosh. 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 Just as Lion's voice fell, rays of light suddenly flew out of those cracks. They were densely packed, and no one knew how many of them there were. They emitted a dazzling sound as they pierced through the air. Every ray of light was a treasure. Lu Ming circulated the forbidden power in his eyes. He could clearly see that some of the rays of light were desolate crystals. Every ray of light was a piece of desolate crystal. There were also some that were metallic materials. Of course, not every ray of light was a treasure. Some of them were just ordinary stones. The multicolored light flew out from the cracks and spread out in all directions. Attack. The living beings of the 4 forces flashed and used various methods to grab the rays of light. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. In a flash, the forbidden power turned into thousands of rays and grabbed at the thousands of rays of light like thousands of hands. Soon, thousands of desolate crystals were caught in his hand and kept into his storage ring. Then he grabbed at the others. Guemo and Qiuqiu also flew out and attacked with all their might. Qiuqiu specifically targeted those metallic materials. As soon as he opened his mouth, those metallic materials automatically flew into his mouth. The efficiency was astonishing. In just a few minutes, Lu Ming had obtained tens of thousands of desolate crystals. Those are source-level divine weapons. Unexpectedly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. At this moment, 6 rays of light flew out of one of the cracks. These 6 rays of light emitted an astonishing aura. They were 6 weapons of different forms. They were definitely source-level divine weapons. Everyone could sense it from the aura. This made everyone's heart beat wildly. This was too shocking. 6 source-level divine weapons flew out of a single crack. These were source-level divine weapons, and there were 6 of them at once. One had to know that even in the Heavenly Human Clan, about half of the Origin Realm experts did not have a source-level divine weapon. This showed how rare and precious source-level divine weapons were. What was inside these cracks? Was it really a supreme treasure trove? Although there had been divine weapons flying out before, they had not been source-level divine weapons. The 6 source-level divine weapons were flying in the direction of the Heaven Destroyer. However, they were not very far away from the Heavenly Human Clan. We must get the source-level divine weapons. Yi Wuchang shouted and took the lead to rush over. The other Heavenly Human Clan members also rushed over at an extremely fast speed. Although the 6 source-level divine weapons were flying in the direction of the Heaven Destroyer, they were not very far away from the Heavenly Human Clan. The Heavenly Human Clan members flew quickly and soon approached. Attack. How could the Heaven Destroyer let the Heavenly Human Clan have their way? Lu Ming, Guemo, Qiuqiu, Lion, Xianyanqing, and the others also attacked together. They rushed toward the 6 source-level divine weapons at an astonishing speed. Scram! Yi Immortal shouted and slashed out a terrifying sword light toward Lu Ming and the others. Yi Immortal's battle prowess was too strong. Although he was only a 9th layer divine master, His battle prowess was far above the Lord of Heavens. He was no weaker than Gu Changfeng and the king of Guangqian. Lu Ming and the others' hearts skipped a beat. Just as they were about to dodge, Gu Changfeng rushed out and attacked Yi Immortal with a powerful attack. He blocked Yi Immortal's attack and counterattacked with a terrifying attack from afar. Yi Immortal did not dare to be careless against an expert like Gu Changfeng. He could only focus and block the attack. Lu Ming, Xianyanqing Guemo, and the others were closer to the 6 source-level divine weapons. Whoosh! Lu Ming unleashed his forbidden energy and formed a claw. He grabbed one of the source-level divine weapons. The source-level divine weapon seemed to have a mind of its own. It tried to escape, but Lu Ming had it firmly restrained. Chapter 4806. The source-level divine weapon darted left and right, wanting to rush out. However, Lu Ming's taboo power erupted. His palm suddenly grabbed the source-level divine weapon with force, and he put it into the ancient desolation ring. At the same time, Xianyanqing, Bone Demon, Qiu Lion, and one of the strongest devil kings also took control of a source-grade divine weapon. Seeing this, the eyes of the celestial race members turned red with envy. Those were 6 source-grade divine weapons. In the blink of an eye, they were in the Heaven Destroyer's pocket. It would be strange if they didn't feel jealous. Therefore, they rushed over with all their might. Hand over the source-grade divine weapons. The Heavenly Lord of Extermination, the Heavenly Lord of 100 Battles, and the others roared. They led 2 forbidden puppets and 4 primitive puppets and charged toward Lu Ming and the others, launching a terrifying attack. Scram! Lu Ming roared. He instantly activated the battle symbol art to increase his battle prowess by 9 times. His war god spear swept out and collided with the Lord of Heaven's attack. A loud explosion rang out, and the 2 of them retreated at the same time. However, the Lord of Heaven felt a little guilty. When he thought of how Lu Ming killed 3 of the strongest Lord of Heaven's experts, he felt a chill in his heart. How would he dare to continue fighting with Lu Ming? He roared. You 2 deal with him. The 2 forbidden puppets joined forces and attacked Lu Ming. One of them used a battle spear, while the other used a longsword. They attacked Lu Ming from 2 directions. Their attacks were crazy, and the void was constantly shattered. Lu Ming didn't dare to be careless. His war god spear trembled, and he stabbed out twice, blocking the attacks of the 2 forbidden puppets. However, Lu Ming's body shook violently, and he was forced back by the powerful force. What a powerful force! It's the purest form of taboo energy, Lu Ming thought. These 2 taboo puppets were genuine taboo bodies. They possessed pure taboo power, and possessed astonishing power. Lu Ming felt that in terms of pure strength, the 2 forbidden puppets were above the Lord of Heaven. It was just that they were a little slow in using it, and were not flexible enough. When they attacked at the same time, their battle awareness was not strong enough. After all, they no longer had their own spiritual consciousness, and had been refined into puppets. If they were all normal, they would not be any weaker than Gu Changfeng. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. These 2 were absolutely stunning geniuses. In their respective eras, they were absolutely stunning characters. Unfortunately, they ended up like this. At the same time, he warned himself that he absolutely could not let himself end up like this. With 2 growls, the 2 forbidden puppets charged towards Lu Ming. However, this time, Lu Ming did not plan to fight the 2 forbidden puppets head-on. Instead, he fought the 2 forbidden puppets using guerrilla tactics. In terms of strength, the 2 forbidden puppets were indeed above the Lord of Heaven. However, their battle awareness was poor, and their movements were a little slow. Therefore, their overall combat strength was about the same as the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming's body flashed and turned into numerous afterimages. He circled around the 2 forbidden puppets, thrusting out spear radiance, and tangling with the 2 forbidden puppets. The 2 forbidden puppets could not do anything to Lu Ming for the time being. If they are at the same level, their taboo power should not be as strong as mine. As he fought, Lu Ming thought. He compared his taboo power to his opponent's taboo power, and thought about his own taboo power. Lu Ming was confident that if his cultivation reached the peak of the Almighty Realm, his taboo power would definitely be above the 2 forbidden puppets. If he cultivated the 3000th ancient secret skill, his taboo power would be even more powerful. Obviously, be it the two forbidden puppets or Gu Changfeng, they did not have as many secret skills as Lu Ming did in their cells. This was normal. After all, Lu Ming controlled the ancient divine stone and could continuously develop secret skills. Other people did not have such means. On the other side, Lion, Xianyinqing, Bone Demon and the others were also fighting with the heavenly human race. They are fighting over a few source-level divine weapons. They are indeed a bunch of ruins. The young man in purple among the creatures in the forbidden grounds of the primordial divine mountain sneered. His eyes were full of disdain. They were more focused on the primitive gems and other treasures. They did not seem to be interested in the source-level divine weapons. The battle between the Heaven Destroyer and the demons, and the heavenly human race did not last long. Soon they separated. The two sides retreated and then faced each other. They did not continue to fight. They were both wary. After all, the creatures in the forbidden grounds of the primordial divine mountain and the dark pit demon mountain were not far away. If the conflict between the two sides escalated, it would only benefit the creatures in the forbidden grounds. If the creatures in the forbidden grounds suddenly attacked while they were fighting, they would be finished. Yi Qiuxian, the Lord of Heaven, the heavenly human race experts looked at Lu Ming and the others coldly. They looked like they wanted to tear Lu Ming and the others into pieces. Only the Yi Immortal looked calm. His eyes were as deep as an abyss. He said coldly, "Retreat." The heavenly human race retreated into the distance. The short battle ended. At this time, no more treasures flew out of the cracks. The treasures that flew out of the cracks came in waves. Every once in a while, a wave would fly out. Furthermore, there was no pattern to it. The intervals between each wave was also uncertain. The number of treasures that flew out was also random. Sometimes, only a few chaos crystals would fly out. Other times, only some useless stones would fly out. It was rare to see so many treasures fly out at once. The four factions continued to wait. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Violent rumbles would occasionally come out of the cracks, but no treasures flew out. At this time, a rumble came from the void in the distance. A large group of creatures descended. This group of creatures had strange appearances. Their faces were covered in scales, like the legendary mermaids. They rode on giant flying fish and flew over quickly. Their bodies were emitting a terrifying aura. This aura was extremely Yin and cold. It was somewhat similar to the malevolent Yin race of the dark pit demon mountain. They were creatures of the forbidden grounds of the Tsangming Sea. Needless to say, everyone could guess where this group of creatures came from. They came from another terrifying forbidden ground, the Tsangming Sea. They called themselves the Tsangming tribe. In fact, the creatures of the primordial divine mountain were also a special race called the primordial light tribe. The Tsangming tribe stopped in another direction of the void, some distance away from the others. Then, the roars of beasts came from another direction. Giant beasts were pulling dozens of war chariots toward them at a rapid pace. The people of the quasi-sage tribe had arrived. At this point, the 6 most powerful forces in the universe had all arrived. The creatures of the 3 forbidden grounds, the primordial light tribe, the malevolent Yin race, and the Tsangming tribe. The heavenly human race led the heavenly palace, the quasi-sage tribe, the heaven destroyer, and the demon alliance. The 6 factions each occupied a position and faced each other. Chapter 4807. In the blink of an eye, another few months had passed. During this period of time, there was only one time when a treasure flew out. However, there were not many of them, so it did not cause a huge dispute. However, the cracks in the void seemed to be increasing in number. The purple gold light that filled the void became even more dazzling. Once again, many people were able to vaguely see the scene inside through the largest crack. It seemed to be a world. However, the purple gold light was too dense, and the specific scene was a little blurry. Could this be similar to the world of light? Lu Ming muttered in his heart, and could not help but guess. Back then, the world of light was also sealed in the fragment of the continent in the 1,000-year battlefield. At first, it was shrunk to a point in a blood coffin. In that case, it wasn't impossible to seal a world in a void. The 6 factions were constantly studying it. In particular, some of the older generation of the demons had been flipping through the ancient books passed down by the demons during this period of time, and finally made an important discovery. Everyone, this is very likely a blessed land of the Eldritch continent in the previous era. Zixian said. As she spoke, her eyes flickered with a burning flame. A blessed land of the Eldritch continent. Most of the people present were puzzled. According to the ancient records passed down by my race, the Eldritch continent is a holy land for cultivation. Any place may have a better cultivation environment than the current universe. There are divine herbs everywhere, and treasures are as abundant as mountains. However, there is a true holy land for cultivation in the Eldritch continent, and that is the blessed land. According to the ancient records, there are a total of 36 blessed lands in the Eldritch continent. The blessed lands are very unique. They are separated from the Eldritch continent, but are closely related. Every blessed land is the best holy land for cultivation. It contains countless treasures and is blessed by the heavens. According to the records, every blessed land is occupied by a powerful faction. These factions are all guarded by immortals. Zixian explained. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air after hearing this. Every blessed land was guarded by an immortal. Clearly, only the peak factions of the last epoch could occupy a blessed land. However, the blessed paradises are not eternal. In the history of the desolate continent, there have been many terrifying wars. Some of the blessed paradises have been destroyed in the wars. As time passes, the number of blessed paradises decreases. In the last war, the Eldritch continent was shattered. I thought that all the blessed lands were destroyed. Now it seems that there are still blessed lands remaining. Zixian continued. Lu Ming and the rest understood that the remaining grotto heaven and blessed land Zixian was referring to as the world in the void. How do you know that the blessed land of the blessed lands of the past? Lu Ming. It's very simple. Some characteristics are very similar. According to the records in the ancient books, the blessed lands are separated from the Eldritch continent and formed a world of their own. They are closely related, and the universe's profound laws are the same. However, the blessed lands are blessed by nature and give birth to countless treasures. On the Eldritch continent, there are very few holy lands for cultivation that can be compared to the blessed lands. When the blessed lands are about to collapse, the treasures hidden in the blessed lands will fly in all directions. Zixian explained. Lu Ming and the others were surprised. This was very similar to the void in front of them. Moreover, when the blessed lands are about to collapse, they will be filled with blessed lands' divine light. According to our observation, the purple gold light in the cracks is the blessed land's divine light. Therefore, we speculate that there is a blessed land in the void. However, this blessed enclave is about to collapse. Therefore, a powerful force tore through the void, forming spatial cracks. Treasures flew out from within. This blessed enclave is in the process of collapsing. Zixian explained. Hearing that, the crowd came to a realization. They realized that it was very likely that this was truly a paradise. If we can enter it, how many treasures can we obtain? Dandan said as his eyes shone. The eyes of the others also flickered. Indeed, according to the records of the Fiend clan, blessed lands were guarded by immortals. It was definitely an unimaginable land of treasures. The treasures it contained would probably be extremely shocking. Only a small portion of the treasures would fly out from the spatial cracks. The majority would be inside. If they could enter it, they would definitely obtain a vast amount of resources. Lu Ming was especially tempted. If he wanted to break through to the 9th layer of the Divine Master Realm, he would need at least 5 billion desolate crystals. Where could he find so many desolate crystals? However, this blessed enclave gave him hope. The number of desolate crystals in a blessed land like this would definitely exceed 5 billion. It'll be difficult. When the blessed land collapses, space and time will become extremely chaotic. It will form a terrifying destructive force. Let alone divine masters, even reciprocity experts will find it difficult to enter. Moreover, even if reciprocity experts can enter, they won't dare to. The power of reciprocity experts is just too powerful. Entering will only worsen the destruction of the blessed land. An old man from the Fiend clan replied. Then can the space-time spirit rats enter? Lu Ming asked. It'll be difficult. The destructive force is just too powerful. If it were reciprocity space-time spirit rats, then there would be some hope. However, if it's just a divine master, the old man shook his head. According to the records of the desolate continent, a few large organizations were able to refine a special type of flying boat. Divine masters could enter the blessed land by riding those flying boats. It's a pity that our fiend clan doesn't have the refining method. Zixian sighed. Since that was the case, there was nothing they could do. All they could do was wait outside and obtain some treasures. Just like that, a few more months passed. However, on this day a huge change occurred. More than 10 members of the Primordial Light tribe from the Primordial Spirit Mountain suddenly flew towards those cracks. As they flew out, they took out a flying boat. The flying boat was not large. It could only seat over a dozen people. The dozen or so Primal Light clan members all entered the flying boat. Then, the flying boat turned into a streak of light and directly charged into one of the cracks. The flying boat constantly flickered in the cracks. It actually broke through the layers of destructive force and continued onward. A while later, it completely disappeared before everyone's eyes. The Heaven Destroyer, the Fiend Clan, and the Heavenly Human Clan were all dumbfounded. However, the Baleful Yin Clan, the Tsangming Clan, and the Quasi-Saint Clan did not seem too shocked. That flying boat! Zixian exclaimed. Lu Ming and the others obviously knew what kind of flying boat Zixian was referring to. Zixian had mentioned before that some large organizations on the desolate continent could refine a special flying boat that could enter a blessed land that was about to collapse. Chapter 4808. There were some major forces in the Eldritch continent that could refine a type of flying boat that could enter the blessed enclave that was about to collapse. Obviously, the flying boat of the Primordial Light race was very likely that kind of flying boat. Success! We succeeded in refining it. Seeing that the flying boat had successfully flown into the rift, the Primordial Light race beings were overjoyed. Continue refining. Refine more flying boats. We have to seize the opportunity. The purple-robed youth ordered the Primordial Light race to refine the flying boat with all their might. 2 days later, the Baleful Yin race and the Blue Sea race flew out similar flying boats one after another. Each boat carried more than a dozen people and successfully passed through the spatial rift and entered the blessed enclave. This made the Heaven Destroyer, the evil demons, and many people from the heavenly human race very unhappy. The beings of the 3 forbidden lands had obviously mastered the refining method of this kind of flying boat. Obviously, the beings of the 3 forbidden lands had existed since ancient times. They had existed since the Eldritch Continent era. They had existed for so long that it was normal for them to master the refining method of this kind of flying boat. The beings of the 3 forbidden lands being able to enter the blessed enclave was very bad news for the original forces of the universe. They had already guessed that the beings of the 3 forbidden lands needed a lot of resources to unseal the other beings of their races. The more resources they obtained, the more beings of the forbidden lands would awaken. At that time, whether it was the heavenly human race, the quasi-sage race, the Heaven Destroyer, or the evil demons, they would all end up in a miserable state. How many resources could a single blessed enclave awaken? How many powerhouses could it awaken from the 3 forbidden lands? At that time, would they still have a foothold? Should we take a risk and stop them first? Many people had this idea in their minds, but they quickly extinguished it because it was unrealistic. If they wanted to start a war with the beings of the 3 forbidden lands, all the forces of the universe would have to join forces and unite. If any one of the forces acted alone, they would only be annihilated. However, how could the quasi-sage race, the heavenly human race, the Heaven Destroyer, and the evil demons be united? How could they truly join forces and fight to the death with the beings of the 3 forbidden lands? Moreover, even if they joined forces, they might not be able to stop the beings of the 3 forbidden lands. Lu Ming, Songqiong of the quasi-sage race wants to see you. He says he has something to discuss. Suddenly, Lu Ming received Lion's voice transmission. Quasi-immortal race? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He then led Xian Yanqing, Bone Demon, Dandan, and the others to the conference hall. They immediately sought Songqiong. Songqiong only brought a dozen or so quasi-immortal tribes experts. Brother Liu, it's been a while since we last met. You look even better than before. When Songqiong saw Lu Ming, he cupped his fists and smiled. Brother Songqiong isn't bad either. Your current battle prowess is probably not weaker than mine. Lu Ming also smiled. He discovered that Firmament's cultivation had also reached the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm. With Firmament's talent that was not inferior to Yi Qiuxian's, his battle prowess was probably at the level of the strongest Lord of Heaven. Both sides exchanged some pleasantries before taking their seats. Not long after, Zixian, Yinkong, Jiaodu, and the other Abyss Devil's upper echelons arrived. Almost all the higher-ups of the Heaven Destroyer and the demons had arrived. Young Master Songqiong, you said that you had something to discuss with us. May I know what it is? Lion asked at this time. It's very simple. I'm here to cooperate with you. Songqiong Path. Cooperate. Lu Ming Lion and the others' heart stirred. They didn't expect that the mysterious quasi-immortal tribe would cooperate with them. That's right. Now that the creatures of the Forbidden Lands have come into being, they are very ambitious. The original living beings of our universe are facing a great threat. As far as I know, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands have secretly communicated with each other. They plan to join forces and destroy the original forces of the universe. Songqiong Path. What? Hearing Songqiong's words, the hearts of everyone present shook violently. The creatures of the Forbidden Lands planned to join forces and destroy them. This was earth-shattering news. The strength of a single Forbidden Land was already very terrifying. If the creatures of the 3 Forbidden Lands really joined forces, then they would really be in danger. They finally understood why Songqiong wanted to cooperate with them. None of them could contend against the 3 Forbidden Lands. In fact, they didn't even have the confidence to face 1 Forbidden Land, let alone 3 Forbidden Lands. You want to cooperate with us to deal with the 3 Forbidden Lands? Lu Ming asked. You can say that, but not entirely. Songqiong Path. What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. The others also looked at Songqiong, waiting for his answer. I want to cooperate with you, but it's actually just a short-term cooperation. Someone doesn't agree to a long-term cooperation. Songqiong Path. Short-term cooperation? Someone doesn't agree? What do you mean? Lu Ming was even more puzzled. It's very simple. The heavenly human race doesn't agree to a long-term cooperation. Songqiong Path. You also want to cooperate with the heavenly human race? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Of course, we have to unite all our forces to contend against the 3 Forbidden Lands. What do you think? Songqiong Path. Lu Ming and the others didn't speak. Songqiong was right. If they wanted to contend against the 3 Forbidden Lands, they had to unite all the forces. What do you mean by a short-term cooperation? Lu Ming asked again. Short-term cooperation refers to this trip to the Blessed Enclave. After this trip is over, our cooperation will come to an end. Songqiong Dao. It's just a short-term cooperation in the Blessed Enclave. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think the people of the 3 Forbidden Lands have the intention to attack us. Lu Ming asked tentatively. It's necessary if we enter the Blessed Enclave. Songqiong's words shocked Lu Ming and the others. Their eyes flickered as they had some guesses in their hearts. Sure enough, Songqiong continued. As you can see, the 3 Forbidden Lands can refine that kind of flying boat to enter the Blessed Enclave. Coincidentally, my quasi-sage race also has the refining method of this kind of flying boat. We can provide it to you free of charge. The condition is that we have to cooperate with each other after entering the Blessed Enclave. I speculate that once we enter the Blessed Enclave, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands will most likely attack us. Hearing this, the eyes of Lu Ming and the others lit up. The quasi-sage race actually had the refining method of that kind of flying boat. This quasi-sage race was indeed not simple and unfathomable. At the same time, a thought emerged in their minds. That was why the quasi-sage race was so kind to provide the refining method of that kind of flying boat unconditionally. However, they immediately reacted. That was because the quasi-sage race had no choice but to do so. If the quasi-sage race didn't provide the refining method of that kind of flying boat, the Heaven Destroyer, the demons, and the heavenly human race wouldn't be able to enter the Blessed Enclave. Only the quasi-sage race would be able to enter the Blessed Enclave. Once they were attacked by the creatures of the Forbidden Lands, they wouldn't have the slightest chance of victory, and would be completely annihilated. On the surface, the quasi-sage race was at a disadvantage. They unconditionally provided the refining method of the flying boat to the Heaven Destroyer, the demons, and the heavenly human race. In fact, they wanted to pull all forces together to fight against the creatures of the Forbidden Lands. Chapter 4809. If the quasi-saint race entered the heavenly abode alone, not to mention fighting for the treasures inside, they would probably be exterminated by the life forms of the Forbidden Land. This was why they wanted to drag the Heaven Destroyer, the demons, and the heavenly human tribe powerful beings into this place. The celestial race agreed to cooperate with us? Lu Ming continued asking. Yes, but we only agreed to cooperate in the Blessed Enclave. Once we leave the Blessed Enclave, we will terminate the cooperation. As long as you all agree to it, the three of us will meet and discuss it. What do you think? Firmament Path. Lu Ming, Lion Zixian, and the others discussed for a while before agreeing. There was no reason to refuse. Only by entering the Blessed Enclave could they narrow the gap between the major forces. Otherwise, the celestial race and quasi-immortal race would enter the Forbidden Lands. But they wouldn't. They would lack resources and their strength would fall further and further behind the other forces. Then Firmament sent a message to the heavenly human tribe and arranged for the three parties to meet. The heavenly human tribe was naturally led by Yi Immortal, Yi Qiuxian, the Lord of Heaven, and the others had also appeared. Yi Qiuxian, the Lord of Heaven, and the others naturally didn't treat the Heaven Destroyer and the Devil nicely. Killing intent flickered in their eyes. The Yi Immortal's expression was calm. His words were simple. He only said that the cooperation was temporary and was limited to the Blessed Enclave. Once they left the Blessed Enclave, the cooperation would end. The three parties reached an agreement. Then Song Qiong handed over the refinement method of the flying boat to the Heaven Destroyer, the demons, and the heavenly human tribe. The name of the airship? It was called the Crossing Airship. Lu Ming, don't believe the words of the heavenly human race so easily. To cooperate with them, we have to be careful. After returning, Xian Yinqing reminded. I understand. Cooperating with the heavenly human race is like asking a tiger for its skin. Who knows what they'll do behind our backs? I reckon that as long as they have the chance, they will still attack us. Lu Ming said. The others nodded in agreement. Although we are cooperating with the celestial race, but we're still on high alert. After entering the Blessed Enclave, they still had to guard against the heavenly human tribe. Subsequently, Lion and the others began to gather refiners, gathering materials to refine the crossing flying ship. This kind of flying boat was very small. Each one could only carry about 10 people at most. Therefore, many of them had to be refined. After all, most people want to go to the Blessed Enclave. This is a rare opportunity. The Blessed Enclave is a much better place than the Millennium Battlefield. The opportunities were countless times greater. If one were to enter and obtain a fortuitous encounter, one would be able to soar to the heavens. And the more people get in, the more opportunities one had, the higher the chances of obtaining treasures. During this period of time, the number of people from the three forbidden grounds, the heavenly human tribe, and the quasi-immortal tribe was increasing. More and more people from the heaven exterminating troop, and the demons came. Almost all the experts that the major forces could mobilize had been mobilized. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Over the past year, the heaven exterminating army and the evil demons had worked together to refine more than 500 crossing airships. More than 500 flying ships could allow more than 5,000 people to enter the Blessed Land. At this moment, the Heaven Destroyer and the Devil could no longer hold back, because the beings from the three forbidden grounds, the quasi-immortal tribe, and the heavenly human tribe had refined a large number of flying ships and were ready to set off. At the same time, a large number of flying ships flew out of the Primordial Light tribe, the Baleful Een tribe, and the Blue Sea tribe's territory and disappeared into the space cracks. Subsequently, the quasi-immortal tribe and the heavenly human tribe also flew out a large number of flying ships and disappeared into the space cracks. The sky exterminating troop and the demons didn't want to delay any longer. Although they didn't have enough crossing airships to send everyone into the Blessed Enclave, they had no choice but to send some of them into the Blessed Enclave first. As for the rest, they would have to wait until more crossing airships were refined. "Let's go!" Lion shouted. The people from the Heaven Destroyer entered the flying ships in groups of 12. Then, the flying ships turned into streaks of rainbow light and rushed into the space cracks. Autumn Moon has come out of seclusion. At this moment, Lu Ming received a voice transmission. It was from Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had already come out of seclusion and was rushing over at full speed. It was really a coincidence that Autumn Moon came out of seclusion at this time. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to enter. It wouldn't be too late to wait for Autumn Moon to arrive. However, before Autumn Moon arrived, Lu Ming received 2 more messages in a row. It was actually from Ling Yue and Bubbles. What a coincidence! Ling Yue and Bubbles also came out of seclusion one after another. They first went to the Heaven Destroyer's encampment. After learning about the news of the Blessed Land, they also rushed over. "Ha ha ha, what a coincidence! We just gathered a team." Dandan laughed. A flying ship could carry a maximum of 12 people. They had Lu Ming, Qiu Qiu, Bone Demon, Xian Yanqing, Tang Jun, Wan Shen Dandan, plus Autumn Moon, Ling Yue and Bubbles. A total of 10 people could almost take a flying ship. They planned to form a team and explore the Blessed Land together. More than 10 days later, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue and Bubbles arrived one after another. Autumn Moon's cultivation has already reached the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm. Lu Ming was slightly shocked when he saw Autumn Moon's cultivation. Autumn Moon had actually reached the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm. This speed was truly shocking. However, after thinking about it, it was normal. One had to know that Autumn Moon had obtained the inheritance of the first 9 orifices Sacred Heart Zhongyu in the new era. When Zhongyu was at his peak, his cultivation was unfathomable. It could be confirmed that he was an existence that surpassed the origin realm. After obtaining the inheritance of such an expert and cultivating for more than 1,500 years, it was normal for him to have such an improvement. Ling Yue and Bubbles' cultivations were not low either. They had both reached the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. Clearly, each of them had some fortuitous encounter. Coupled with their own talent, they had improved so quickly. Moreover, although they improved quickly, their foundations were very solid. As long as they continued to obtain resources, they could still improve quickly. They had not seen each other for many years. Now that they met, they naturally chatted happily. Dandan added oil and vinegar, telling them what had happened in the past few years. He gave Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, and Bubbles a rough understanding of the current situation in the universe. Of course, Dandan chattered on the surface, but he was very depressed on the inside. The reason for that was because he discovered that his cultivation was the lowest among all of them. During this period of time, Dandan's cultivation had increased by 1 level, reaching the 6th level of the Divine Master Realm. However, he was still the lowest. Almost everyone else was at the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm or above. I will definitely obtain a great opportunity on this trip to the Blessed Land. I must reverse it. I must surpass them. Dandan roared in his heart. "Let's go," Lu Ming said. The others had already been in for more than 10 days. They could not delay any longer. If they entered late, they might miss out on the opportunity. Although the Blessed Land collapsed, there was a process. It would not explode all at once. This process might last for more than 100 years. Chapter 48:10. Lu Ming waved his hand and took out the leap-crossing flying boat. They then entered the leap-crossing flying boat. The leap-crossing flying boat turned into a beam of light, flew into a space crack, and disappeared. The spatial rift was very chaotic. There were no rules to speak of. It was filled with chaotic destructive power. Time and space were chaotic. Inside, one would even have the illusion that time would sometimes stop and sometimes speed up. Moreover, the chaotic space-time would form vortexes and chaotic streams. If one didn't have a flying boat and rushed in rashly, they would really be torn apart by the destructive power here. The flying boat drifted with the waves and rushed forward along a chaotic stream. The further they went, the denser the purple-gold light became. It was like a tide whistling over, causing the flying boat to tremble. About an hour later, the flying boat seemed to have collided with something. It let out a loud bang, but it quieted down. "We should be here," Lu Ming said. He spread out his spirit sense. As expected, they had already rushed through the chaotic place and arrived in a relatively stable world. Then they left the crossing airship and looked around. An ancient aura of the Great Desolate Era was extinguished, and the surroundings were filled with an incomparably dense Great Desolate Era aura. Taking a deep breath, a large amount of Great Desolate Era aura seeped into Lu Ming's nostrils and pores, turning into his own power. It was as if he had refined a piece of Great Desolate Era crystal. No, this Great Desolate Era aura. Something's wrong. Lu Ming was a little shocked. He discovered that the quality of the Great Desolate Era aura here was too high. It was higher quality than any Great Desolate Era aura he had encountered before. It was higher quality than the Great Desolate Era aura in the Supreme Immortal City. It was extremely pure and rich. Is this the blessed grotto heaven? Not to mention anything else just cultivating here. The speed is countless times faster than outside. Dandan sighed. His eyes lit up. The current universe ruins had undergone a huge change. The cultivation environment was getting better every day. There was a trend of development towards the great desolate continent of the previous era. But even so, in the current universe ruins, the best cultivation environment, compared to here, it was also dwarfed by the great ones. There was no way to compare at all. The difference was too great. This was the blessed grotto heaven, the top cultivation holy land in the primordial continent. It was a place where immortals presided over. Boom. Suddenly heaven and earth shook. The void in the distance suddenly, a ferocious crack appeared. Like the maw of a great beast devouring everything, destructive power swept across, causing the ground to explode continuously. Large tracts of forest and large tracts of plants were reduced to ashes. In fact, they could even see several huge cracks spreading out from the ground. Deep underground, magma was spurting out. This was indeed a peerless cultivation holy land, but unfortunately, it had already reached its end and was about to collapse. According to the speculation of the quasi-saint race and the fiends, this heavenly paradise had suffered irreparable damage during the world-shaking war at the end of the previous era. It was already rare for it to be destroyed for such a long time, but the trend of destruction was irreversible. Let's leave this place first and look for those Chi Meridian, or ancient buildings. Only then will we be able to reap great rewards. Lu Ming said. Before entering the Blessed Enclave, they had had many exchanges with the demons and learned some information about the Blessed Enclave. The Blessed Enclave had collapsed. Only by finding that kind of Chi Meridian would one be able to reap great rewards. Chi Meridian, in fact, had a similar meaning to spirit veins and earth veins. Chi Meridian was the place where the desolate Chi condensed. It was the source of the desolate Chi. The Chi Meridian contained the most desolate crystals and other treasures. They were usually buried deep underground. Now that the Blessed Enclave had collapsed and the Chi Meridian had been torn apart, the treasures buried deep underground would fly out. Most of the treasures that had flown out of the crack previously had flown out from these earth veins. Lu Ming waved his hand and put away the leap-crossing airship. They couldn't lose the leap-crossing airship. They would have to rely on the leap-crossing airship to leave this place later. After putting away the leap-crossing airship, they chose a direction that seemed slightly more stable and didn't collapse much and flew in that direction. Not long after, they saw a forest. They rushed into the forest, intending to see if there were any divine medicines. In the Blessed Enclave, the desolate Chi was incomparably dense. In such an environment, there should be a lot of divine medicines. There should be a lot of main grade and origin grade divine medicines. However, they were soon disappointed. This was because they had circled around this forest for a long time, yet they did not find any divine medicine. Not to mention main grade and origin grade divine medicines. They didn't even find a single overlord or emperor grade divine medicine. This isn't right. With such dense desolate Chi, how can there not be any divine medicines? There isn't even a low-grade divine medicine. Could it be that someone has beaten us to it? Tang Jun said with a frown. No, there isn't any trace of digging around here. Dandan shook his head and said, Do you feel that the space here is filled with a gloomy and cold aura? At this moment, Guemo said. The two balls of soul fire in his eye sockets were flickering. He seemed to be a little surprised. You're right. It's not just here. It's also in other places. Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing, Qiu Moon, and the others nodded. In fact, they had long felt it. It wasn't just in this forest. It was the same in other places. The space was filled with a gloomy and cold aura. This gloomy and cold aura wasn't dense. It didn't have much of an effect on existences of their level. However, it was a little strange that there would be such a gloomy and cold aura in such a blessed place. Could it be that the lack of divine medicines here has something to do with this gloomy and cold aura? Xian Yanqing said. It's not impossible. Although we can block this gloomy and cold aura, it might hinder the nurturing of divine medicines. Guemo said. The conditions for nurturing a divine medicine were very harsh. The higher the grade of the divine medicine, the more difficult it was. It required a very good environment and rich energy to nurture it. Once there was an external force that interfered, it might not be able to nurture it. Let's go to other places to take a look. Lu Ming suggested. Everyone left this place. After a while, they passed through forests and mountains, but they didn't find any traces of divine medicines. Moreover, no matter where they went, they could feel the gloomy and cold aura in the space. This made them a little disappointed. They originally thought that they would be able to find a lot of treasures in the blessed place. Divine medicines could be seen everywhere. It seemed that they were overthinking. Now they could only look for chi channels and hope that they could find something in them. Look, there are buildings on that mountain. Dandan's eyes were sharp as she pointed ahead. Chapter 48:11. Not far in front of them, there was a mountain peak. They could see some buildings scattered on the mountain peak. Everyone's eyes lit up. There was no doubt that this blessed enclave definitely belonged to the same faction in the last era. However, the blessed enclave was too big. Even if it was the same faction, they would not gather everyone in one place. They would definitely be distributed wherever the cultivation environment was better. For example, there were many chi channels in the blessed enclave. Then the people of the blessed enclave would also be distributed on these chi channels to cultivate. There were buildings on the mountain peak ahead. Could they be built on the chi channels? Lu Ming and the others did not hesitate and directly flew forward. This was a mountain range with many majestic peaks. However, many of the peaks were broken, as if they were cut in half by some weapon. The buildings on some of the peaks were dilapidated and turned into ruins. Obviously, there had been a great battle here. These peaks were cut in half by a sword. Only one mountain peak was still intact, and the buildings on it were also intact. What Lu Ming and the others saw before was this mountain peak. They extended their spiritual senses to investigate, but they did not find any danger. Then they flew up, landed in front of the mountain peak, and walked toward an intact palace. After passing through the gate, they entered a huge courtyard. In the courtyard, there was nothing. There was only a piece of pitch-black land. In the courtyard, there should be a place to grow plants, but on this pitch-black land, there was not a single weed. It was completely bare. Everyone casually glanced at it. They crossed the courtyard and continued to go deeper. However, not long after Lu Ming and the others left, the pitch-black soil in the courtyard. Some places suddenly protruded, and a pitch-black withered claw suddenly stretched out from one of the protruding places. On the claw, it was covered with pitch-black fingernails. It was like a dagger. Then, a zombie-like figure. It drilled out of the soil. This zombie-like figure. Its body was thin, and it was still wearing broken iron armor. There was a gloomy and cold aura all over its body. Its eyes were pitch-black like a deep well. It looked in the direction that Lu Ming and the others left. Then, bang, bang. In the soil, similar zombies kept crawling out. Lu Ming and the others went all the way into the depths of the building. Unfortunately, they did not find anything along the way. The buildings here were engraved with formations. That was why it could maintain itself for so long without decaying. However, other things could not endure such a long period of time. Most of the things had decayed, leaving only the empty shell of the building. Of course, divine medicine was even more out of the question. There was always that kind of gloomy and cold aura in the space, making it difficult to nurture divine medicine. After walking around, everyone was disappointed. Didn't they say that there were countless treasures in the blessed lands? Why didn't they obtain anything after entering? Could it be that this trip was in vain again? Suddenly, Lu Ming and the others stopped in a public square. Because there was someone ahead. Heavenly Human Tribe. Lu Ming and the others were moved. The 12 heavenly humans paced back and forth in front of him. They should have arrived together on the same flying boat. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, the people of the celestial race also noticed Lu Ming and the others. Their gazes turned towards them. Lu Ming and the others immediately realized that something was wrong. The eyes of the 12 heavenly humans were pitch black, like an abyss. Their skin was also pitch black, and there was a strange aura that was incomparably gloomy and cold. Roar! When they saw Lu Ming and the others, the 12 heavenly humans immediately roared and charged at Lu Ming. They did not use weapons. Instead, they used their claws to grab Lu Ming and the others. Their claws had very long fingernails that were like daggers. They cut through the void, emitting terrifying whistling sounds. Something's wrong. There's something wrong with these heavenly humans. Be careful. Lu Ming shouted softly and flicked his fingers continuously. 12 rays of spear gleams burst forth and pierced toward the 12 members of the heavenly human tribe. The reason he did not immediately take out the battle god spear was because he felt that there was no need. These 12 heavenly humans did not have high cultivation bases. Only one of them had reached the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm. The other 11 were all below the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, the 12 spear lights pierced through the 12 heavenly humans and sent them flying. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others narrowed their eyes. That was because the 12 heavenly humans were still alive. In the past, the strongest among them was only at the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm. The others were all below the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. The difference between them and Lu Ming was too great. Lu Ming could kill them with a flick of his finger. But this time he was unable to kill them. Not a single one of them was killed. The 11 heavenly humans below the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm had their chests pierced by the spear light, creating a huge hole. However, they didn't die. Black smoke filled the holes in their bodies. Their wounds were rapidly healing. As for the 9th level Divine Master Realm heavenly humans, his chest was not pierced. He only had a finger-deep wound. Black chi also spread out, and the wound quickly healed. What a powerful defense. What a tough body. These heavenly humans are no longer the original heavenly humans. They seem to have turned into zombies. Lu Ming whispered to Xian Yanqing and the others. The defense of these heavenly humans had surpassed his expectations. Just now, when Lu Ming stabbed their bodies, he felt like he had stabbed an incomparably tough divine weapon. He had barely been able to pierce through their bodies. Although Lu Ming had not used his full strength just now, that attack was enough to kill a 9th level Divine Master. From this, one could see just how terrifying their defenses were. Did you guys see the wounds on their necks? They seem to be teeth marks left behind by teeth, Guemo said. With Gumo's reminder, everyone noticed this. These 12 heavenly humans truly did have teeth marks on their necks. They had been bitten. The blood on their bodies seems to have been sucked dry. The reason they've become like this is definitely related to those teeth marks. Xian Yanqing added. Everyone couldn't help but tense up. These 12 heavenly humans had been bitten by some living creature, which was why they had turned into zombies. This meant that there was some sort of terrifying monster hiding in the area. Their numbers were unknown. Roar! Roar! Roaring, the 12 heavenly humans once more charged at the group. Use your full strength. Destroy them. Lu Ming shouted. The War God Spear appeared and swept out, striking the 9th level Divine Master Realm heavenly humans. Berserk energy erupted from the War God Spear, as though it could destroy everything. The 9th level Divine Master Celestial Race Expert exploded like a balloon, and was reduced to smithereens. The moment Lu Ming attacked, Guemo attacked as well. Gumo's every move contained the power of the Lord of Heaven. He seemed to have turned into a black bolt of lightning as he attacked 11 times in a row, blasting the 11 heavenly humans to pieces. Chapter 48:12. The 12 celestial race experts were blasted to pieces, unable to recover. But just as Lu Ming and Bone Devil blasted the 12 celestial race experts to pieces, violent sounds of air being torn apart came from behind them. Lu Ming swept out with his spiritual sense, and saw a group of terrifying monsters pouncing toward Xian Yanqing and the others. This group of monsters was pitch black, with eyes as deep as the abyss and claws as sharp as swords. They were extremely similar to the 12 celestial race experts from before. However, the cold aura coming from these monsters was even denser, and the aura they exuded was even more terrifying. At the same time, there was a faint aura of time on their bodies, as if they had been passed down through the ages. There were more than 20 monsters in this group, and their sharp claws tore through space as they charged toward Xian Yanqing and the others. Xian Yanqing and the others immediately felt a terrifying pressure, and they couldn't help but unleash their full strength. The phantom of the immeasurable devil steel appeared on Xian Yanqing's body, and the battle character art was activated. She sent out a dozen palm strikes, forcing the dozen monsters back. At the same time, Myriad God and the others made their move. Bubble waved her hand, and the power of time and space erupted, enveloping the entire area. The zombie-like monsters were greatly affected, and their speed suddenly decreased. Next, Autumn Moon, Tangjun, Myriad God, Dandan, Ling Yue, and the others attacked. One attack after another landed on the zombies, but the sound of metal clashing rang out. The zombies retreated. Wounds of various sizes appeared on their bodies, but they were completely fine. Moreover, they were recovering at an astonishing speed. How can this be? What a tough body! What shocking defensive power! Autumn Moon, Ling Yue and the others exclaimed. Based on the aura of those zombies, the strongest was only a 9th-layer Divine Master. And they were all peerless geniuses who could fight across realms, even if they were only 7th-layer Divine Masters. They didn't fear 9th-layer Divine Masters. However, they weren't able to kill the zombies. Instead, they only left behind a few shallow wounds. Among them, Autumn Moon's attack power was the highest. She pierced through the bodies of the 2 strongest zombies. However, the 2 zombies quickly recovered. In the next second, these zombies roared, their pitch-black eyes fixed on Lu Ming's group, as if they were yearning for something. Then they continued to pounce on Lu Ming's group. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming and Bone Demon stepped forward one after another. Like a flash of lightning, he rushed to the front of Xian Yanqing and the others. They launched an attack. Wang! The war god spear vibrated. He swept out with his spear, striking a 9th-layer Divine Master zombie at the very front. The zombie was immediately sent flying like a cannonball. But unlike the celestial race cultivators from before, this zombie was not blasted into smithereens. This zombie only had a large hole in its body, but it immediately stood up. The large hole that was blasted open by the explosion was quickly recovering. The Bone Devil also launched an attack, but it also failed to destroy these zombies. The bodies of these zombies were too tough. They were even tougher than master-level divine weapons. Now, with Lu Ming and Gu Mo's battle prowess, even if it was a main-grade divine weapon, they would still be able to shatter it. Yet they were unable to shatter the bodies of these zombies. These are definitely some kind of zombies, and old ones at that. They're probably creatures from the last epoch. Bone Demon's grave voice rang out. You're saying that the creatures of the last epoch turned into zombies after they died, and have been roaming this land ever since? Lu Ming said. That's right. Bone Demon nodded. The others felt their hearts sink. This was very likely the case. At the same time, they thought of the 12 celestial race cultivators from before. Perhaps those 12 celestial race cultivators had been attacked by these zombies, their necks bitten and their blood sucked dry. At the same time, they had been assimilated and turned into zombies. Roar! The zombies charged at Lu Ming's group. Moreover, an even more shocking sight occurred. Some parts of the ground began to wriggle, and then more zombies began to crawl out of the ground. Bang! 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 The earth exploded as several dozen zombies crawled out. Roars could be heard from other directions as well. One could see terrifying zombies rushing over from all directions. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred of them. There were hundreds of terrifying zombies. Lu Ming and the group felt their hair stand on end. No wonder they did not discover them before. It turned out that these zombies were hidden deep underground. Roar. With a terrifying roar, a 2-meter-tall zombie pounced at Lu Ming. From the looks of it, this zombie had been a burly, middle-aged human who had crawled out from under the ground of the square, and was the first to arrive at the scene. Lu Ming could not help but feel his hair stand on end, because this zombie gave Lu Ming a very dangerous feeling. Without hesitation, Lu Ming activated the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 9 times, increasing his combat strength to a fixed point. Sky-breaking form. The battle god's spear trembled as Lu Ming used the sky-breaking form. His spear stabbed out, colliding with the zombie's claws. With a loud bang, Lu Ming felt a force as heavy as a mountain surging from the combat god's spear. Lu Ming could not help but retreat a few steps. That zombie was also blocked by Lu Ming, and it retreated continuously. It's on the level of the strongest Lord of Heaven. Careful. Lu Ming roared in shock. The strength of the zombie just now was not below his at all. It was extremely terrifying. It definitely had the combat strength of the strongest Lord of Heaven realm. Roar. After being forced back, the zombie once more pounced at Lu Ming. Great desolate form. Lu Ming sent out a palm, and a huge continent appeared, pressing down on the zombie. At the same time, Qiu also flew out, turning into a sharp sword that slashed at the zombie. Qiu also possessed the power of the strongest Lord of Heaven. Together with the great desolate form, it blocked the zombie. As for Lu Ming, he continued to use the sky-breaking form. Man and spear became one, and a dazzling spear light stabbed at the zombie. Bang! The battle god spear accurately stabbed into the zombie's head. However, it encountered a huge obstruction. It couldn't pierce through. Yes, the battle god spear was actually unable to pierce through the zombie's head. It was only able to pierce an inch before it was stuck in the zombie's bones. A powerful force gushed out and sent the other party flying, crashing into the walls of the palace. Runes appeared on the walls of the palace, dissipating most of the force. However, the palace had been through countless years, so there wasn't much of the power of the formation left. Many cracks had appeared on the palace after being hit by the formation. However, the zombie was completely fine. With a roar, it once more charged at Lu Ming. At this time, the other zombies also arrived. They roared as they charged at Xian Yanqing and the others. There was no lack of terrifying zombies among them. For example, there was an extremely old man with a head of white hair. He was pitch black and skinny, but his aura was especially terrifying. He was actually fighting an intense battle with the Bone Devil. Chapter 48:13. The Bone Demon's body was extremely hard. It ignored its own defense and went all out. However, the other party also ignored its defense and attacked crazily. Both of them were hit continuously by the other party, but they were fine. The zombie naturally couldn't break the Bone Demon's defense, but the Bone Demon couldn't destroy its body either. It could only leave a small wound on its body. The other party's body was covered in black gas, and it quickly recovered. 9 apertures in 1 slash. Autumn Moon shouted. The 9 apertures' sacred heart emitted a bright light. The 9 types of energy almost merged into one. Combined with Autumn Moon's divine weapon, it slashed out a terrifying saber light. Autumn Moon inherited Zhongyu's inheritance. Not only did her cultivation increase greatly, but her combat strength also increased tremendously. As a 9th-level divine master, Autumn Moon's combat strength wasn't inferior to the strongest Lord of Heavens. This was very shocking. It meant that in a battle of the same level, Autumn Moon wasn't weaker than Yi Qiuxian. As Zhongyu said, the 9 apertures' sacred heart had a great background. In the previous era, it was a top-notch talent. Now that Autumn Moon had Zhongyu's inheritance, her potential was constantly being developed, and her combat strength was becoming more and more terrifying. Autumn Moon's saber light slashed several zombies. Although these zombies didn't have the combat strength of the strongest Lord of Heaven, they were still very terrifying. They charged at the front. These zombies were sent flying by Autumn Moon. An inch-deep saber wound appeared on their bodies, but there wasn't any. Under the effect of the black gas, they quickly recovered. Then they pounced on Autumn Moon. Xian Yanqing also attacked with all his strength, blocking the strongest zombies. Bubbles shouted. covering thousands of miles of defense with the power of time and space. The void was being divided, and time seemed to have stopped flowing. After all these years of cultivation, Bubbles' control of space-time power? It was getting deeper and deeper. The two origin ancient characters, time and space, were almost comprehended to the extreme. Not only did they have powerful attack power, but their ability to trap enemies had also reached the peak. Hundreds of zombies? Their movements slowed down. It was as if they were in a swamp. Swoosh. Ling Yue's body was completely enveloped by green energy. A towering tree appeared behind her, and a big bow appeared in her hand. An arrow shot out. The attack power of archery? Absolutely the most shocking. It was even stronger than Sword Dao. Bang! Between the eyebrows of a zombie? Pierced through? A hole that could be seen from the front to the back appeared. However, it was fine. It was completely fine. Even though the space between its eyebrows had been pierced, the zombie was still alive, just stumbling for a while. Black gas permeating the air? The hole between his eyebrows had healed? He continued to rush over. No soul. His glabella had been pierced, but he was still fine. These zombies had no soul at all. In other words, this type of zombie simply did not have any vital points. If one wanted to kill it, one would have to destroy its entire body and shatter its bones. However, their bodies were too tough. Any one of them was as tough as a divine weapon. It was very difficult to destroy them. Wan Shen, Tang Jun, and Dandan also attacked with all their might. However, there were just too many zombies. Even though everyone worked together seamlessly, the zombies still closed in on them. They were surrounded. Qiu, go and help them. Lu Ming waved his hand and Qiu rushed out to help Qiu, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, and the others. Although Qiu, Autumn Moon, and Xian Yanqing had the combat strength of the strongest Lord of Heaven and blocked some of the strongest zombies, Ling Yue, Wan Shen, Bubbles, and Dandan did not have such strong combat strength. There were too many zombies. As time passed, they would definitely not be able to block them. Especially Bubbles. If one wanted to use the power of space-time to affect so many zombies, the consumption would definitely be huge. As time passed, Bubbles would definitely not be able to hold on. Qiu flew out and transformed into a halberd that smashed down at a zombie. This zombie was not too strong. It was around the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. Under Qiu's full-strength attack, its body was finally crushed into pieces and completely killed. It seemed that this type of zombie was not immortal. It required a strength much stronger than theirs to kill it. Unfortunately, there were also terrifying existences among the zombies. Lu Ming and the others were entangled, and could not spare any effort to deal with the weak zombies. Let's break out of the encirclement first. If this continues, it will be very disadvantageous for us. Lu Ming shouted. Leave it to me. You guys stall for a while longer. I'll set up a few formations. Dandan called out, and then transformed into its original form. Dense runes appeared on its huge turtle shell. One could see many small formations on its turtle shell. Some of the formations glowed, and turned into runes that flew out and seeped into the ground and the void. As for the others, they gathered together to help Dandan fend off the surrounding zombies. All right, heaven and earth, great entanglement, come out. Dandan shouted. Endless runes filled the void, forming a huge formation that condensed thousands of chains that wrapped around the zombies. Although Dandan was only at the 6th level of the Divine Master Realm, the formation that he had laid down over a period of time was still very powerful. Although it could not truly entangle the zombies, it could still interfere with them. Many zombies were disrupted, and with the influence of the space-time power, many zombies could not charge over. Charge! Lu Ming and Bone Devil gathered together to block the two strongest zombies. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Qiu were in front, while Wan Shen, Tang Jun, Ling Yue, Dandan, and Bubbles were in the middle, charging in a certain direction. In the end, they broke out of the encirclement and flew into the distance. Roar! Roar! The zombies constantly roared. They did not give up and left the mountains to chase after Lu Ming and the others. The two strongest zombies at the level of the Lord of Heaven were the fastest and took the lead. Lu Ming and the others had ugly expressions. These zombies were too difficult to deal with. In particular, the two strongest zombies at the level of the Lord of Heaven were basically copies of Bone Devils. They were much more difficult to deal with than the other strongest Lord of Heaven outside. They could not be killed at all. Destroying these zombies would probably require the strength of an Origin Realm expert. Even an expert at Gu Changfeng's level would find it very difficult to destroy them. They rapidly flew forward, crossing hundreds of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. The Blessed Land was basically a world of its own. It was extremely vast and boundless. After flying for hundreds of thousands of miles, the zombies continued to follow them. They could not shake them off. However, what made Lu Ming and the others grimace was yet to come. Just as Lu Ming and the others continued to fly, a roar came from up ahead. Following that, a group of zombies appeared and charged over. What's going on? Why are there so many zombies here? Did all the people of the Blessed Land in the last epoch turn into zombies? Dandan and the others cried out. These zombies were all in human form, but they wore strange clothes and were filled with the aura of time. It was very likely that they were creatures from the last epoch. Moreover, they were all in human form. They seemed to be humans. Chapter 48:14. These zombies were all from the human clan. They were not from other clans who had transformed into human form. They were pure humans. They were wearing all kinds of ancient clothes, many of which were tattered. Only a few of them were wearing armor, which could still be vaguely seen. One could imagine that this blessed enclave must have been a powerful force of the human clan in the last era. Hundreds of zombies were rushing toward them from both the back and the front. Some of the zombies that appeared in front of them were also very terrifying. This could be seen from their speed. Go to the other side. Lu Ming shouted and asked everyone to rush to the right. If they were surrounded by so many zombies, especially those who were as strong as the Lord of Heaven, they would be in danger. It would be difficult for them to escape. These zombies were too difficult to deal with. Seeing Lu Ming and the others running away, the zombies in the front and back chased after them with roars. Damn it, what's wrong with these zombies? Why are they chasing us? Dandan shouted unhappily. These zombies are bloodthirsty. The blood of those heavenly humans was sucked dry. These zombies are probably attracted by our blood. Lu Ming analyzed. Let me try. Bone Demon said and rushed in the other direction to see if he could lure the zombies away. However, the zombies ignored Bone Demon and still chased after Lu Ming and the others. This undoubtedly confirmed Lu Ming and the others' guess. These zombies were chasing them because of their blood. Bone Demon had no blood, so he was not attracted to the zombies. After confirming, Bone Demon flew back and fled together. Bang bang bang. Suddenly the ground below Lu Ming and the others exploded. Dozens of zombies had rushed out from the ground. How many of them were there? They roared and grabbed at Lu Ming and the others. Their claws were sharper than divine weapons. Be careful. Lu Ming shouted. He threw a palm downward. The primitive style erupted and a continent was formed. It pressed down. It bombarded dozens of zombies. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of zombies slammed into the ground, causing a series of rumbling sounds to erupt. Some weak zombies? Was he directly knocked to the ground? But how many powerful zombies were there? His battle prowess was equivalent to a peak divine master? His body was as hard as a divine weapon, forcefully piercing through the continent. He rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Get down. The Bone Devil took action. With the violet gold battle axe in his hand, he hacked out several times in succession. The zombies fell to the ground like meteors. Several large craters appeared on the ground. But he didn't die? Although their bodies were wounded by the Bone Devil's attacks, they didn't have the strength to fight back. But the black gas? Their wounds were healing quickly. The hearts of Lu Ming and the others grew heavier and heavier. How did these zombies come about? How could it be so terrifying? It wasn't like they hadn't seen zombies before, but none of them were so terrifying. Did all the people in this blessed enclave turn into zombies? If that was the case, then this trip was really a dragon's lair and a tiger's den. Could it be that he had to give up halfway and leave? He was truly unwilling to accept this. Bang bang bang. As Lu Ming and the others flew, more zombies broke out from the ground below and rushed up, but they were all blasted down by Lu Ming and the others. After hundreds of miles, no more zombies rushed out from the ground, but the number of zombies chasing behind increased by hundreds. More and more zombies were chasing after them. These zombies were constantly roaring. Their roars were like thunder, spreading far and wide. The terrifying thing was that not long after, roars came from all directions, echoing from afar. It's over. We're surrounded. There are zombies in all directions. Dandan wailed. They didn't get anything after entering the blessed enclave, but they were surrounded by countless zombies. If they hadn't seen the creatures of the forbidden area, the Quasi-Saint tribe would have already entered. They would have suspected that the Quasi-Saint tribe was tricking them. The Quasi-Saint tribe probably didn't expect this scene. The ancient books of the demons didn't have such records about the blessed enclave. Charge in the direction where there are fewer roars. The Bone Devil shouted. The direction where there were fewer roars meant that there were fewer zombies. They rushed toward the south. The roars from all directions were getting louder and louder, which meant that the zombies were getting closer and closer to them. Judging from the roars, the number of zombies was probably no less than 1,000. Once surrounded by so many terrifying zombies, only death would await them. Even experts like Gu Changfeng wouldn't be able to escape. No matter how many ordinary divine masters there were, it would be difficult for them to trap experts like Gu Changfeng, because they could kill a lot of them in one move. However, these zombies had strong defenses and were very difficult to kill. If they couldn't kill them, they would be exhausted to death no matter how strong they were. Soon, a group of zombies appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others. They scattered and rushed toward Lu Ming and the others. Listening to the roars from afar, it seemed that the number of zombies here was the least. In fact, there were quite a lot of zombies. There were about 300 of them. However, there was no way out now. They could only fight. Charge out. Lu Ming shouted and took the lead. The war god's spear vibrated and shot out a dozen spear auras, knocking a dozen zombies away. The Bone Devil, Xian Yinqing, Autumn Moon, Qiu Qiu and the others also attacked and knocked the zombies in front of them away. However, there was a terrifying existence among the zombies. It was as powerful as the Lord of Heaven, and it caused a lot of trouble for Lu Ming and the others. Their charging speed was greatly hindered. The zombies behind them were getting closer and closer. God wants me dead. I haven't even reached my peak yet. Am I going to die halfway? Dandan wailed and looked miserable. Cut the crap. Attack with all your might. Lu Ming shouted. Aren't I attacking with all my might? Dandan shouted. He had already turned into his original form. The turtle shell glowed and the arrays lit up one after another. Unfortunately, it could only interfere with the zombies. It was difficult to kill them. Look, why are those zombies going around that hill? Suddenly, Xian Yinqing pointed to the right. Lu Ming and the others also looked over, and their hearts skipped a beat. There was a hill on that side. It wasn't tall, only a few dozen meters high. However, they could clearly see that the zombies in that direction would take the initiative to go around the hill when they got close to it. Some of the zombies were originally moving in a straight line, but when they got close to the hill, they automatically went around it. It seemed that they were afraid of the hill. There's something wrong with that hill. Let's charge over there. Maybe there's a chance. Tang Jun shouted. Charge. The others also thought of this and immediately changed their direction and rushed toward the hill. Chapter 48:15. Now they couldn't care less. They could only try their best. Because a dense group of zombies had appeared behind them. They were like ants, rushing towards them. They would be surrounded soon. By then, only death would await them. They might as well try their luck at this hill. Perhaps there would be a turn for the better. Roar. Roar. Two burly zombies wearing tattered armor attacked Lu Ming, and the others crazily. These two zombies had the combat strength of the strongest Lord of Heaven. They had a great impact on Lu Ming and the others. 9 orifices, 1 slash. Qiu Yu shouted. And the power of the sacred heart of 9 orifices surged wildly. She slashed out, and as the saber light flew out, the 9-colored power actually changed rapidly. Finally, the 9 colors disappeared, and it turned into a transparent saber light. It slashed on the head of a zombie that had the combat power of a heaven lord. Sizzle. The blade light slashed on the zombie's head and made a sizzling sound. It cut 2 inches deep into the zombie's head. Even Lu Ming was secretly surprised. He knew how hard the body of a creature of this level was. Even if he attacked with all his strength, he might not be able to cut 2 inches deep. However, Autumn Moon could cut 2 inches deep. It showed how terrifying this attack was. Unfortunately, 2 inches was the limit. Autumn Moon's blade was stuck in the zombie's skull. It roared and swiped its sharp claws at Chiuyu. Autumn Moon's face changed. In such a situation, she could either abandon her blade and retreat or be clawed by the zombie's claws. Autumn Moon didn't have the defense of the zombie. Once she was clawed, the consequences would be unimaginable. When Autumn Moon was about to abandon her blade and retreat, Lu Ming made his move. He pulled out his war god spear and hit the zombie's head. The zombie's head shook violently. The powerful force knocked Autumn Moon's blade out. The zombie's body flew out like a cannonball. On the other side, Bone Demon and Chiuyu teamed up. It also sent the other zombie with the strongest fighting power of the Lord of Heaven flying. As for Xian Yanqing, activating the immeasurable devil steel to open a path, Huang Xiaolong sent more than 10 powerful zombies flying, forcefully opening a path for himself. Lu Ming, Bone Demon and 10 others? He rushed over and finally reached the top of the hill. Roar, roar, roar. Those zombies roared and charged towards Lu Ming and the others. But he stopped? It seemed like they didn't dare to approach. They could only surround him and roar. Even if it was the 2 zombies with the strongest fighting power of the Lord of Heaven, it was the same. Similarly, it didn't dare to get close. This made Lu Ming and the others click their tongues in wonder. There's something strange about this hill. There must be something beneath the hill that scares these zombies. Lu Ming and the others took one round. Dandan, is there a formation here? Lu Ming asked Dandan. No. There's no trace of a formation here. My senses won't be wrong. Dandan said seriously. Then there must be something under the hill. Let's dig it up and see. Maybe there's a way to leave this place. Lu Ming suggested. At this time, the thousands of zombies behind them had already rushed over. They surrounded the hill, densely packed, and looked very horrifying. However, the zombies behind them didn't dare to get close to the hill, and they only roared from afar. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming took out a battle knife and carefully started to dig. He didn't dare to use too much force, afraid that he would break the thing under the hill. If that happened, it would be over for him. There was a layer of rocks at the bottom of the hill. Lu Ming peeled away layer by layer, and finally, a blue light spread out. When the blue light spread out, the surrounding zombies seemed to be afraid, and they retreated. Zombies squeezed among other zombies, causing chaos. It's this kind of rock. The zombies are afraid of this kind of blue rock. Everyone was shocked. They could see that there was a kind of blue rock at the bottom of the hill. This kind of blue rock was like a blue crystal, and there was a scorching aura spreading out like flames. What kind of rock is this? I've never seen it before. Lu Ming whispered. The others also shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen it before. They could only speculate that this might be a rock unique to the Blessed Enclave. Obviously, the zombies were afraid of this kind of blue rock. Try to see why the zombies are afraid of this kind of rock. Lu Ming said. Taboo energy poured into the battle knife, and he carefully cut off a small piece of the blue rock, which Lu Ming grabbed in his hand. Suddenly, a real scorching heat spread from his palm. This kind of temperature could be said to be amazing, and even god emperors might not be able to withstand it. However, for someone like Lu Ming, it didn't affect him much. Whoosh! The taboo body burst out, and Lu Ming threw out this small piece of blue rock. The blue color turned into a blue lightning, and with amazing speed, it accurately hit one of the zombies. With a bang, the blue rock hit the zombie's body and exploded, turning into powder. However, a big hole was created on the zombie's body, and wisps of blue flame covered the zombie's body. The zombie let out a painful roar, and its body emitted a sizzling sound, and white smoke kept coming out of its body. It kept struggling, and after a while, the blue flame on its body disappeared. However, it was obvious that the black gas on the zombie's body had become much fainter. The zombie's aura was also much weaker, and it looked like its vitality was greatly damaged. Especially the big hole on its body, which was still there and hadn't recovered. In the past, the zombies would recover quickly once they were injured. However, the wound caused by the blue rock had not recovered. The eyes of Lu Ming and the others lit up. They could see that the blue rock had a great restraining effect on this kind of zombie. One had to know that this kind of zombie's defense was amazing. Even if a divine weapon attacked it, it wouldn't be easy to injure it. However, the rock just now wasn't sharp, and Lu Ming had easily left a wound on the zombie's body. And it had also greatly damaged its vitality. This blue rock was simply the zombie's nemesis. To be more precise, it was able to restrain the black gas on the zombie's body. According to Lu Ming and the others' analysis, the reason why this kind of zombie was so terrifying had a lot to do with the black gas on their body. Although the 12 heavenly humans had also become zombies, the black gas on their bodies was thinner, and they were much easier to deal with. As for the old zombies behind them, the black gas on their bodies was dense, and they were very difficult to deal with. And the blue rock was able to restrain this kind of black gas. Haha, we're saved. Next, watch how I teach these zombies a lesson, and make them obediently sleep. Dandan began to be arrogant again. Its previous sorrow and grief were swept away, and it was in high spirits. Chapter 48:16. Let's peel away the useless rocks around the hill, and see how big this blue rock is. Then we'll see how to use it. Tang Jun suggested. After all, she had lived 2 lives and was more mature. Everyone agreed and then began to work. Soon, the useless soil and rocks on the hill were cleared away, and a large blue rock appeared in front of everyone. This blue rock was about 8 meters tall and 3 meters wide. It was constantly emitting blue light like a blue flame. Let me cut a piece and try. Dandan cut a rock the size of a wash basin, and walked towards the zombies with it in his hand. As expected, when the zombies saw Dandan approaching, they all showed a look of fear and couldn't help but retreat. Ha ha ha, damn zombies, now you're scared, right? Kneel down and kowtow to me. Dandan laughed. Of course, he was just joking. The zombies naturally wouldn't kneel to him. Roar, roar, roar. Suddenly, a violent roar was heard. A few zombies were surrounded by thick black chi and slowly approached Dandan. There were more than a dozen zombies in total. These zombies all had the combat power of the strongest Lord of Heaven. It had to be said that this blessed enclave was really terrifying. It was extremely difficult to give birth to an existence at the level of the strongest Lord of Heaven. The strongest Lord of Heaven required top talent. All of them were amazing people whose future achievements were immeasurable. In the era where the origin energy didn't appear, they would definitely be an overlord. But in this blessed enclave, Lu Ming and the others had only walked a short distance, but they had already encountered more than a dozen zombies comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. This was simply shocking. Lu Ming and the others guessed? Maybe it had something to do with the predecessors of these zombies. This was the blessed enclave? In the primeval continent of the last era? It was also the top force with immortals in charge. It was definitely filled with experts. There were countless geniuses. These zombies comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven? Their predecessors were definitely not simple. Perhaps they were all terrifying figures. Otherwise, wouldn't the strongest Lord of Heaven be as common as cabbages? He grabbed a handful with each grab. However, what made Lu Ming and the others feel at ease was, no reciprocity zombies appeared. Obviously, blessed enclave? Was it also a part of this universe? Would he also suffer the origin tribulation? Even the zombies with source energy were probably in hibernation. Dandan was shocked when he saw more than 10 powerful zombies approaching. His expression changed drastically. Bloated bodies? More flexible than anything else? In a flash, he quickly returned to Lu Ming's side. Nest. These zombies aren't afraid of the blue rock, Dandan said with lingering fear. It's not that I'm not afraid, it's just that these zombies are extraordinary. The smaller the blue rock, the less afraid they are, Lu Ming said. As expected, the 10 or so most powerful zombies were roaring in the surroundings, but they didn't dare to approach. Clearly, they were very afraid of the blue rock. Let's cut off some of this blue rock and turn it into a sharp weapon. It should be enough for us to charge out, Bone Devil suggested. That's right. Everyone nodded and then began to work. They cut off the blue rock and made it into a spindle or needle shape. In the end, everyone carried several hundred hidden weapons made of blue rock. Swish. Lu Ming waved his hand and a long needle made of blue rock flew through the air and hit the head of a zombie. The blue needle actually pierced a small hole in the zombie's extremely hard body. Of course, the blue rock itself wasn't hard. Even with Lu Ming's forbidden power wrapped around it, the powerful impact caused the blue needle to shatter after piercing a small hole in the zombie's body. However, some of the energy on the blue rock had already seeped into the zombie's body through the hole. It spread in all directions and enveloped the zombie's entire head. The zombie let out a painful roar. Its entire head seemed to be enveloped by blue flames. The zombie rapidly retreated. Black chi spread out to resist the blue flames. In the end, the flames were extinguished and the zombie's aura became much weaker. The effect was better than Lu Ming and the others had imagined. Dandan, you carry this rock and stand in the middle. We'll charge out together, Lu Ming said. He let Dandan carry the large rock and stand in the middle. The others surrounded Dandan and rushed in a direction. Roar, the dozen strongest zombies roared. Their pitch-black abyss-like eyes stared at Lu Ming and the others. They followed Lu Ming and the others closely. As for the weaker zombies, when Lu Ming and the others approached, they couldn't help but retreat. Roar. After Lu Ming and the rest had walked a distance away, the dozen of strongest zombies finally could not hold themselves back. They roared and pounced on Lu Ming and the rest. But this time, Lu Ming and the others weren't afraid of these zombies. They waved their hands and blue lights flew out. All of them were long needles and shuttles made of blue rocks. More than a dozen zombies comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven crazily grabbed with their claws. Many of the blue needles and shuttles were destroyed by the energy they stimulated. But there were still a few that bombarded them. These dozen zombies were indeed extraordinary. Even the long needles and shuttles made of blue rocks couldn't easily break through their defense. They only made shallow wounds on their bodies. However, it was enough. The blue flames on the blue rocks immediately spread out and constantly corroded the black chi and the bodies of the zombies. More than a dozen zombies had to fight with all their strength. Lu Ming and the others took the opportunity to attack and beat back more than a dozen powerful zombies in one fell swoop. These zombies had to fight against the blue flames. Their strength was weakened a lot, and they were sent flying by Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others took the opportunity to rush out. Not long after, Lu Ming and the others successfully broke out of the zombie encirclement and rushed into the distance. Asterisk roar. Asterisk the dozen zombies comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven roared like thunder and rushed toward Lu Ming and the others. The rest of the zombie army also followed closely behind. Hive, there's really no end to this. If this goes on, we'll just waste time with these zombies. Where will we have time to find the treasure? Dandan shouted unhappily. We must get rid of these zombies. Xian Yinqing said. We might as well grind some blue rocks into powder and scatter them behind. We don't need to completely block these zombies. As long as we can slow them down, we will have a chance to escape. Lu Ming said. Haha Lu Ming, you're really smart. I just thought of this idea. I didn't expect you to think of it too. Not bad, Dandan laughed. His skin was as thick as the city wall and he didn't feel embarrassed at all. The others also nodded and felt that this method was worth a try. He immediately took action and cut off some of the larger rocks. Using his powerful strength, he ground the blue rocks into powder. Chapter 48:17. Lu Ming and the others ground a total of about 10 kilograms of blue rock powder. Each of them held 1 kilogram and wrapped it with divine power or taboo power, and distributed it to different positions. Then with a burst of power, the blue rock powder exploded, and dust filled the air, covering a radius of thousands of miles. The sky and the earth were all blue, and it was very beautiful. Many zombies rushed into the blue powder, and suddenly, there was a sizzling sound from their bodies, and puffs of white smoke spread out. These zombies roared in pain and retreated quickly. The zombies behind did not dare to move forward, and stopped in place, constantly roaring. These zombies seemed to have low intelligence, and almost no spiritual intelligence, and did not know how to take a detour. In this way, most of the zombies were blocked by Lu Ming, and the others with the blue powder. However, the dozen or so zombies that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven stubbornly rushed through the area covered by the blue powder, and continued to chase Lu Ming and the others. However, Lu Ming and the others had expected this. After the dozen or so zombies that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven broke through the area covered by the blue powder, they shot out hundreds of long needles or shuttles cut from blue rock, and completely covered the dozen or so powerful zombies. Although the dozen or so powerful zombies destroyed some of the long needles or shuttles, some still hit them, leaving wounds on their bodies, and their bodies were also blocked. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others took this opportunity to explode their speed to the extreme, and flew away with all their strength in an instant. By the time the dozen or so zombies recovered, Lu Ming and the others had already disappeared in front of their eyes. Roar! The dozen or so zombies roared angrily, and let out violent roars. They flew around in the same place, and their sharp claws kept scratching the ground, leaving terrifying claw marks. After a while, roar! Suddenly, an earth-shaking roar came from afar, shaking the earth and causing the void to tremble. The dozen or so zombies that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven suddenly stopped roaring. The thousands of other zombies also stopped roaring, and looked in the direction of the roar. In the next moment, a black lightning bolt cut through the void, and came quickly. In the blink of an eye, a burly figure appeared in the void. This figure was also a zombie. It wore a shabby black armor and emitted a terrifying aura. The black aura that permeated his body was frighteningly dense. It was many times denser than that of the dozen or so zombies that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. The most peculiar thing about him was his eyes. Unlike the eyes of other zombies, which were like two pitch-black wells, his eyes were black with a hint of silver. The silver light flickered, revealing traces of intelligence. Roar! The silver-eyed zombie roared, and the heavens and earth shook. The thousands of zombies at the scene trembled, and all of them prostrated themselves on the ground in fear. Even the strongest zombies lowered their heads, although they didn't crawl on the ground. Roar, roar! The silver-eyed zombie roared several times, as if it was issuing orders. Then it turned around and flew in the direction Lu Ming's group fled. At this time, the blue rock powder had all fallen to the ground. Thousands of zombies flew up and followed the silver-eyed zombie, chasing after Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others flew all the way. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any zombies for a few hours. Of course, they didn't have any other gains. On the way, they encountered more than a dozen people from the Quasi-Saint tribe. However, these Quasi-Saint tribe people had the same fate as the 12 heavenly human tribe people they met at the beginning. There were bite marks on their necks, and their blood was sucked dry, turning them into zombies. When they saw Lu Ming and the others, they pounced on Lu Ming and the others. However, Lu Ming and the others didn't want to waste time with them, and directly shook them off. Boom, boom, boom. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a violent roar came from not far away, accompanied by a series of roars. Hearing this, Lu Ming and the others knew that someone was besieged by zombies. What should we do? Should we go around or? Bone Demon looked at Lu Ming. What do you think? Lu Ming looked at Tang Jun, Xian Yanqing and the others. I think we should go and take a look. What if it's the Heaven Destroyer people? Tang Jun said. That's right. Judging from the sound, there aren't many zombies. We can save them. Xian Yanqing nodded. The others also suggested so. Okay, let's go and take a look. Lu Ming nodded. Everyone restrained their aura, and carefully rushed toward the place where the battle broke out. Soon they approached the place of the battle. It's the Quasi-Saint tribe. Everyone was shocked. The people besieged by the zombies weren't the Heaven Destroyer people, but the Quasi-Saint tribe. There were a total of 24 Quasi-Saint tribe people who were surrounded by more than 30 zombies and constantly attacked. These 24 Quasi-Saint tribe people weren't weak, and there was no lack of experts. Several of them were peak almighty experts, and one of them was equivalent to the peak Lord of Heaven. These zombies weren't very terrifying. However, these zombies' bodies were too hard. No matter how the Quasi-Saint tribe people attacked, they couldn't do anything to these zombies. Therefore, the Quasi-Saint tribe people were still at a disadvantage, and could only form a circle to resist. After a long time, they would most likely be in danger. Should we take action? Xian Yanqing asked Lu Ming. Let's do it. The Quasi-Saint tribe has a long history, and most likely knows some secrets. Maybe we can learn something from them, such as the origin of these zombies. Lu Ming said. Another reason was that they had already formed an alliance with the Quasi-Saint tribe. After all, they had received benefits from the Quasi-Saint tribe. It was within their ability to help. Lu Ming and the others rushed out. While rushing out, long blue needles and shuttles flew out and flew toward dozens of zombies. Bang bang bang. These zombies didn't have much spiritual intelligence. Usually, their attacks were crazy and didn't care about defense. Naturally, they were easily hit. Those weaker zombies were immediately pierced with deep wounds. They were enveloped by the flames on the blue rocks and let out painful roars. Those stronger zombies weren't much better off. They also suffered serious injuries. Subsequently, Lu Ming and the others rushed over and bombarded those zombies with various attacks. Suddenly, more than a dozen zombies were smashed into pieces and turned into a pile of fragments. Lu Ming and the others were surprised. They found that these zombies became dispirited after being attacked by the blue rocks. Even their defense weakened a lot. Some weaker zombies were easily smashed into pieces. Even those stronger zombies were seriously injured. Their bodies were broken and couldn't recover in a short time. Chapter 48:18. It's Lu Ming and the rest. The people of the Quasi-Saint tribe were overjoyed when they saw Lu Ming and the rest. Let's go! Lu Ming shouted. The people of the Quasi-Saint tribe immediately reacted and seized the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement. Lu Ming and the rest didn't stop and continued to attack the zombies. The zombies were hit by the colored rocks and were in a weakened state. If they didn't attack now, when would they? If the zombies reacted, they would definitely chase after them and roar continuously. It would be troublesome if they attracted other zombies. Buzz. The War God Spear vibrated and whipped a 9th stage Divine Master Realm zombie. Under normal circumstances, a 9th stage Divine Master Realm zombie's body was as hard as a divine weapon. Even Lu Ming could only injure it but not destroy it. But now, the zombie was in a weakened state and the black gas on its body wasn't as dense. The War God Spear exploded with majestic power and instantly tore the zombie's body into pieces. At the same time, Guemo, Xian Yinqing, Autumn Moon, and the rest also attacked with all their might and smashed the zombies into pieces. In just a few breaths' time, the remaining zombies were all killed by Lu Ming and the rest. The people of the Quasi-Saint tribe were dumbfounded. They knew how difficult it was to deal with the zombies, but they didn't expect Lu Ming and the rest to deal with them so easily. Let's go! After Lu Ming and the rest dealt with the zombies, they didn't stay and left with the people of the Quasi-Saint tribe. After flying for a long distance, they stopped. I'm Songlin, Lu Ming, and everyone else. Thank you for saving us this time. A young lady from the Quasi-Saint tribe smiled and cupped her fists. She was very beautiful and had a red mark between her eyebrows that was shining brightly. Her name was Songlin, and she was also a top prodigy of the Quasi-Saint tribe. You're welcome. We are now allies with the Quasi-Saint tribe. Naturally, we have to help when we see you. Lu Ming replied politely. Then he changed the topic and said, Miss Songlin, do you know what's going on with these zombies? I've never heard of such zombies appearing in the Blessed Enclave. Songlin frowned and said, We don't know either. Something big must have happened to this blessed land. Perhaps it is related to the war at the end of the last era. Song Qiong, my cousin, you read a lot of books. If you want to know the details, you can find him later. Do you know where Firmament is? Lu Ming asked. I know. Not long ago, we received a message from our cousin, Song Qiong. They are gathering in an ancient city. We were about to go there, but we didn't expect to be surrounded by these zombies. Songlin Avenue. Could it be that there are no zombies in an ancient city? Lu Ming asked curiously. Yes. Cousin Song Qiong sent us a message saying that there are many zombies around the ancient city. He asked us to be careful when we go there. However, the ancient city seems to have a restraining effect on the zombies. Those zombies don't dare to come close, Songlin explained. It can restrain zombies? Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, and the others couldn't help but think of the blue rock. Didn't the blue rock also have a restraining effect on the zombies? Could it be that Firmament's ancient city also had the same blue rock or something similar that could restrain the zombies? Lu Ming, do you guys want to come with us? According to cousin Song Qiong, there are zombies everywhere in this blessed land. It's very dangerous. Many people have already gone to that ancient city. Songlin Avenue. All right, let's go together. Lu Ming nodded. Let's find a place to stay first and find out more information at the same time. The people from the Quasi-Saint tribe led the way. They set off towards Firmament's ancient city. Along the way, they were careful and avoided 2 waves of zombies. Not long after, they saw a huge mountain range. The mountain range shook violently and let out loud rumbles. It was as if a huge dragon was about to awaken. From time to time, there would be purplish golden rays. That was the heavenly paradise light. That's a chi meridian. Dandan's eyes lit up. That's right. It was indeed a chi meridian. The desolate chi was shockingly dense and looked like it was about to collapse. They were all tempted. There must be a lot of treasures in the depths of the chi meridian. Not to mention other things, there must be a lot of desolate crystals. Once it collapsed, the desolate crystals in the depths of the chi meridian would definitely fly out. But what made their faces turn ugly was that there were figures wandering around the chi meridian. Those were zombies. From afar, there were at least a few hundred of them. Roars came from afar. Some of the roars were very shocking. They were probably zombies that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. With so many zombies here, it was obviously impossible for them to wait here for the chi meridian to collapse. Once they couldn't hold them back, they might have to face even more zombies. They had no choice but to leave first and wait until they reached the ancient city before making a decision. They continued to set off. Not long after, a huge ancient city appeared on the horizon. Even from a distance, they could feel the vastness of the ancient city. Moreover, the walls of the ancient city were emitting blue rays of light. It's that kind of blue rock. The walls of the entire ancient city are made of that kind of blue rock. Lu Ming and the others were a little stunned. Although they were far away, with their eyesight, they could still see it clearly. The walls of the ancient city were indeed made of that kind of blue rock. Roars came from all directions. There were many zombies scattered around the ancient city. At a glance, it was hard to count the number of zombies. These zombies were wandering around the ancient city. Their eyes were fixed on the ancient city, and they would roar from time to time. But none of them dared to get close to the ancient city. Lu Ming and the others were even more certain that the city walls were made of blue rock. That was why the zombies didn't dare to get close. They could see many figures on the city walls, looking from afar. It's cousin Song Qiong. Song Lin exclaimed in surprise. It was obvious that she admired Song Qiong a lot. There are fewer zombies over there. We'll break out from there. Dandan, cast an array to cover our blood chi. Lu Ming said to Dandan. No problem. Dandan nodded. She waved her hands and dense runes appeared. Very soon, an array was engraved on the bodies of Lu Ming and the rest. It could greatly conceal the fluctuations of their vital energy and blood, preventing the zombies from sensing them. Then, they went to another direction with fewer zombies and rushed towards the ancient city with all their might. Because of the array that covered their blood chi, the zombies wouldn't be able to sense them easily. At least when they were far away, they wouldn't be able to sense them easily. They would only be able to sense them when they were close. This made it easier for Lu Ming and the others to move. Soon they were halfway through the journey. They weren't far from the ancient city. Chapter 48:19. Halfway through the journey, the zombies sensed Lu Ming and the rest. They roared and charged towards Lu Ming and the rest. Speed up! Lu Ming shouted. Everyone increased their speed to the maximum and charged forward with all their might. At the same time, they launched attacks and blasted away the zombies in front of them. Roar! The zombies roared and attracted more zombies to charge towards Lu Ming and the rest. However, Lu Ming and the rest shot out long needles and shuttles made from blue rocks. They broke through a wave of zombies and continued to approach the ancient city. It's Song Lin and the rest. And Lu Ming and the rest. On the city wall, Song Qiong and the rest also noticed Lu Ming, Song Lin, and the rest. Get ready to go out, and helped Song Lin and the rest enter the city. Song Qiong ordered. Yes. Instantly, a few hundred experts from the Quasi-Saint tribe flew up and charged towards them. When they got close to the zombies, they waved their hands and shot out rays of blue light. These blue rays of light were all made of blue rocks, and they forced the zombies to retreat again and again. The few hundred Quasi-Saint tribe quickly approached Lu Ming and the rest. They cleared the zombies in front of Lu Ming and the rest. Both parties met up and soon, Lu Ming and the rest arrived on top of the ancient city. When they were a distance away from the ancient city, the zombies didn't dare to come close and could only wander around. After ascending the ancient city, Lu Ming and the rest were certain that the city walls were indeed made of blue rocks. They were covered with some rune arrays that were used to strengthen the city walls. Even though countless years had passed, there were still energy fluctuations from the arrays. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to be in this area. Song Qiong greeted with a smile. Lu Ming's heart sank when he looked around. On top of the ancient city wall, and inside the ancient city, there were figures flashing around. However, he didn't see any heaven destroyer or evil demon. There were quasi-saint tribe in the ancient city, heavenly human tribe, but there was no heaven destroyer or evil demon. Lu Ming made a rough estimation. There were about 2,000 people from the heavenly human tribe in the ancient city. There were also many from the quasi-saint tribe. There were about 2,000 as well. Brother Songqiong, why is there a heaven destroyer or a demon here? Lu Ming asked. The Blessed Enclave is huge, and its territory is vast. Are they likely to be distributed in different regions? Heaven destroyer or devil should be in another area? Our quasi-immortal tribe? Tens of thousands of people? In this area, there are only a little over 2,000. Firmament explained with a smile. Lu Ming nodded, knowing that what Firmament said made sense. The heaven destroyer or the devil might be in other areas, but he was worried. Other regions? Were they all zombies like this? What if there was no such blue rock? That would be really dangerous. Brother Songqiong, do you know what kind of zombies are? What's going on? Lu Ming asked the question in his heart. According to my speculation, this type of zombie should be an absolute corpse. Firmament path. Absolute corpse? Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Tang Jun, Bone Demon, and the others all looked puzzled, because they had never heard of it before. I'm not sure about the specifics, but I've seen it in the records of my clan. In the last era, there was a zombie plague in the Eldritch continent. A large number of absolute corpses appeared in a certain place, and their bodies were as tough as divine weapons. They were invulnerable and strong, and they could absorb the blood of other living beings to strengthen themselves. They could also turn other living beings into absolute corpses. In the end, the zombie plague was suppressed by the human race's almighties. Firmament path. Lu Ming and the others were surprised. What Firmament said was very similar to the zombies they had encountered. Maybe it was the absolute corpse. How did the absolute corpse come about? Lu Ming asked again. I'm not sure. There aren't many records of it in the records of my clan, only a simple introduction. I only know that the absolute corpse is very difficult to deal with. We're lucky that there are blue firestones in the Purple Heaven Grotto that can suppress the absolute corpse. Firmament path. Purple Heaven Grotto? Blue firestones? Lu Ming and the others were puzzled. Could it be that this blessed land was called Purple Heaven Grotto? Did the blue firestones refer to the blue rocks? We found records in this ancient city. This blessed land is called Purple Heaven Grotto. As for the blue firestones, they are the blue rocks that can suppress the zombies. I came up with this name casually. Firmament explained with a smile. Following Song Qiong's explanation, Lu Ming also understood that this blessed grotto heaven was called Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven. Song Qiong and the rest had entered Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven more than 10 days earlier than Lu Ming and the rest. When they entered, they were also attacked by the absolute corpse. At the beginning, many of them had died. Furthermore, in Purple Heaven Grotto, there weren't any ancient cities or ancient buildings. The city walls were all built with blue firestones. In fact, there were very few of them. They were lucky to find this ancient city that could suppress the absolute corpse. Otherwise, they would be in danger. After hearing this, Lu Ming and the others' hearts sank. It was a coincidence that the blue firestones could suppress the absolute corpse. Firmament and the others were lucky to find this ancient city. What about the others? If they didn't find the blue firestones, wouldn't they be in danger? Brother Firmament, what do you plan to do next? Are you going to stay in this city and not leave? Lu Ming asked. Of course not, but there are too many absolute corpses outside. Once we rush out, we might attract more absolute corpses. At that time, We will be surrounded by an army of absolute corpses. Even if we have the blue firestones, it will be difficult to deal with them. You have to know that some of the absolute corpses are very scary. Firmament path. Lu Ming nodded. He also understood this point. Although they had long needles and shuttles made from blue firestones, they were limited in dealing damage to the absolute corpses. When they hit the absolute corpse, they could only reduce its strength, but not kill it. If there were only a few absolute corpses, it would be fine. But if there were too many of them and they were surrounded, even if they had weapons made from blue firestones, it would be dangerous. Moreover, once they left this ancient city, they would have to face the attacks of the absolute corpses. No matter how many blue firestones they had, they would run out. However, it is impossible for us to be trapped in this city forever. There is a mine in this ancient city that is filled with blue firestones. We are currently researching how to melt the blue firestones and use a formation to completely attach them to the divine weapon. As long as we succeed, we will be able to easily break through the extreme corpse's defense and kill it, Firmament Path explained. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and the others' eyes lit up. Not bad, this is definitely a good idea. The blue firestones themselves weren't tough. Even if they attached their divine energy to it, it would break down easily after hitting the absolute corpse. It would be difficult to deal a fatal blow to the absolute corpse. However, if they could attach the blue firestones to their weapons, they could easily break through the absolute corpse's defense and turn it into ashes. Chapter 48:20. How's the research going? Lu Ming asked. Now, the blacksmiths of the celestial race and the quasi-saint race are working together. However, it's not easy to completely attach the blue firestone to the divine weapon without damaging the divine weapon. It can be removed at any time, and it has good stability. I estimate that it will take a few months. Song Qiong said. I can join and help with the research. Dandan exclaimed. Dandan is a genius of the world's divine tortoise tribe. He has great talent in rune formation Dao. Perhaps he can help. Lu Ming introduced. I've heard of the world's divine tortoise tribe. With your help, we might be able to research it earlier. Song Qiong looked at Dandan with a smile and praised Dandan without batting an eyelid. Dandan grinned from ear to ear. Song Qiong was becoming more and more pleasing to his eyes. Song Qiong immediately led the way to the center of the ancient city. The ancient city was huge. There were continuous mountain ranges and vast lakes in the ancient city. It was like a world within a city. Soon, they arrived near a huge mountain peak. Huge mines had been excavated on the mountain. Blue rays of light filled the air. Everyone walked in and found that there were indeed large amounts of blue firestones in the mountain. Many people were researching in a spacious underground space. Exterminating Lord of Heaven of 100 battles. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Here he met two old acquaintances. They were the two strongest Lord of Heaven of the heavenly human tribe. Exterminating Lord of Heaven and Lord of Heaven of 100 battles. Lu Ming. Exterminating Lord of Heaven and Lord of Heaven of 100 battles also noticed Lu Ming. Cold rays of light shot out from their eyes. It's a pity that these two guys didn't die in the hands of the extreme corpse. Dandan sighed helplessly. Hee, even if you die, we won't die. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination sneered. Is that so? Do you believe that I won't smash your dog head? Dandan shouted. A mere 6th-tier divine master. You dog, you overestimate yourself. I can suppress you with a single finger. The heavenly monarch of 100 battles replied. What did you say? Dandan was furious. Both sides were filled with a cold aura. Powerful auras exploded and collided, causing the entire underground space to buzz and tremble. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Did he really not mind fighting here? Kill the Lord of Heaven the Exterminator and the Lord of Heaven the 100 battles? Weaken the strength of the heavenly human tribe. Himself Bone Devil Qiao, Xian Yanqing, including Autumn Moon, there were a total of 5 Lord of Heaven level existences, while the other side only had 2. You want to kill him? It was not a difficult task. But now? Flickering? A few figures? Appearing behind the Lord of Heaven the Exterminator, and the Lord of Heaven the 100 battles. Astonishing auras filled the air. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. The two burly figures were filled with all kinds of auras, but they were extremely terrifying. They were two primitive divine puppets with the combat power of the Lord of Heaven. There were also two heavenly human elders in golden armor. Their auras were astonishing. They were also the Lord of Heaven. The heavenly human tribe originally had 9 such old and powerful Lord of Heaven. The battle outside the Heaven Destroyer's base? Lu Ming killed 3 of them? There were 6 left. The other side suddenly had 4 Lord of Heaven level experts, including the Lord of Heaven the Exterminator and the Lord of Heaven the 100 Battles. There were 6 Lord of Heaven level experts. The atmosphere between the two sides was tense. Swords were drawn and bows were drawn. It seemed like a battle would break out at any moment. Everyone, please calm down. We agreed to work together earlier. Moreover, our common enemy right now is the absolute corpses and the living beings of the Forbidden Grounds. If we kill each other, it will only weaken our strength. Song Qiong quickly came out to smooth things over. Since young Master Song Qiong said so, let's forget about today. It won't be too late to take their lives after the trip to Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven. The Lord of Heaven the Exterminator sneered. He didn't really want to let Lu Ming and the others go. If he was confident, even if Song Qiong mediated, he would still kill Lu Ming completely. It was just that he wasn't confident. They didn't know that Lu Ming had 5 people with the same combat power as the Lord of Heaven. He only knew that Lu Ming, Bone Demon, Qiu, and Xian Yanqing were all at the same level as the Lord of Heaven. He didn't know about Autumn Moon's combat power. Most importantly, he was afraid of Lu Ming. In the battle outside the Heaven Destroyer base, Lu Ming had killed 3 of the Lord of Heaven's strongest opponents, which made him feel a lingering fear. Yi Immortal later speculated that Lu Ming couldn't maintain that kind of combat power all the time. He even speculated that Lu Ming used some kind of secret treasure and couldn't use it again after using it once. Because after that battle, Lu Ming was too low-key. If he really had that kind of combat power, he would probably counterattack the heavenly human tribe. However, Lu Ming didn't. But speculations were just speculations. No one could be sure. What if Lu Ming still had that kind of combat power? It was better to be safe than sorry. Therefore, the Lord of Heaven took the opportunity to give Song Qiong some face. Humph, we still don't know who will kill who. Dandan replied. Lu Ming didn't say anything. To be honest, he had the same idea as the Lord of Heaven. If he was confident, he would also kill the Lord of Heaven and the others. However, he wasn't confident. He knew himself well. He couldn't control that kind of bloodstain at all. In terms of combat power, he was only equivalent to the Lord of Heaven. Haha, thank you for giving me face. Song Qiong smiled and continued to smooth things over, taking over this matter. In this underground space, many refining masters were studying how to stably attach blue firestones to divine weapons. Dandan watched for a while and also joined in. Dandan's current array formation skills were indeed superb. After watching for a while, he pointed out a few key points, which made the refining masters overjoyed and made a major breakthrough. Song Qiong and the others were surprised and also overjoyed. With Dandan's participation, it wouldn't take long for the research to be completed. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen and the others watched for a while and collected some blue firestones to put in their storage rings. Then, they left and returned to the city wall. Outside the city wall, there was still a large number of extreme corpses wandering around. As time passed, the number of extreme corpses outside increased. Not long after, another group of Quasi-Saint tribe arrived and rushed towards the ancient city. A portion of the Quasi-Saint tribe in the ancient city went out to receive them. However, as the number of extreme corpses around the ancient city increased, it became more and more difficult to rush into the ancient city. Although this group of Quasi-Saint tribe finally rushed into the ancient city, it was still very dangerous and a few of them even died halfway. It seems that it will be difficult to come in later. Spread the news and tell the others not to continue coming here. Find a place to hide and wait for us to kill our way out. Song Qiong instructed. At the same time, the heavenly human tribe also sent out a message, asking the heavenly human tribe to find a place to hide and not come here. Chapter 48:21. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. With the addition of Dandan, The research on stabilizing the blue firestone on the divine weapon was greatly accelerated. Originally, it was estimated that it would take a few months, but soon, news spread that it would be completed in a few days at most. There were two main difficulties in attaching the blue firestone to the divine weapon. One was stability. For example, he could casually grind the blue firestone into powder or melt it into liquid and smear it on the divine weapon. This was very unstable. When he was fighting with the absolute Yin corpse, the blue firestone that was smeared on the divine weapon would be scraped off when he slashed at the absolute Yin corpse. That way, it would be useless after a few moves. The first problem was to use a rune formation to firmly attach the blue firestone to the divine weapon, so that it would not be scraped off easily. That was the first difficulty. The second difficulty was that after attaching the blue firestone to the divine weapon, it had to be easily removed and not be permanently attached to the divine weapon. For example, if it was attached to a source-grade divine weapon and couldn't be removed, then the source-grade divine weapon's power would be greatly affected. It would greatly reduce the value of the source-grade divine weapon. That was not worth it. These two difficulties were related to the rune formation. With the addition of Dandan, they were quickly solved. In a few more days, they would be able to complete the task. At that time, everyone would have blue firestones on their weapons, and they would be able to kill their way out, defeat the extreme Yin corpses, and search for treasures. On the city wall, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others were strolling on the city wall. On the city wall? These runes were the remnants of a formation. Although a very long time had passed, it was still a long time ago. There were still a few that could be used. However, Heavenly Human Tribe or Quasi-Saint Tribe, they did not activate or use these formations because there was no need. The blue firestone itself was enough to deter the extreme Yin corpses from approaching. There was no need to activate the formations. Roar. Outside the city wall? Suddenly, there was a shocking roar. Following this roar, the scattered extreme Yin corpses outside the city wall, they actually became orderly, slowly retreating, gathering together, surrounding the ancient city. Above the extreme Yin corpses, a tall figure stood there. Black chi spread out from his body, emitting a terrifying aura. These extreme Yin corpses are so terrifying. Lu Ming's pupils shrank slightly. It is indeed terrifying. This silver-eyed Yin corpse's battle prowess surpasses the strongest Lord of Heaven? It already possesses some intelligence. Was Firmament coming? He explained. An absolute Yin corpse whose battle prowess surpasses the strongest Lord of Heaven. The hearts of Lu Ming and the rest trembled. Inside the absolute Yin corpse, there was actually such a terrifying existence. What if he didn't have the blue firestone? Encountering an extreme Yin corpse of this level would only result in death. The absolute Yin corpse that was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven was already very terrifying. His body was indestructible and invulnerable. Even if Lu Ming attacked with all his might and activated the War God Spear, he could only barely leave a scratch on his body. One could imagine how terrifying the extreme Yin corpse, whose battle prowess was even stronger than the Lord of Heaven, was. Even if Lu Ming attacked with all his strength, he might not be able to break through its defense. Roar. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar came from another direction. Lu Ming and the others noticed that there was another extreme Yin corpse floating in the air in that direction. Its aura was terrifying. Similarly, this extreme Yin corpse's eyes were also black with a tinge of silver. It was another silver-eyed Yin corpse. At this moment, Firmament's face also turned serious. Previously, there was only one silver-eyed Yin corpse around the ancient city. I never thought that there would be a second one. I hope that there won't be more. Firmament Path. But before Firmament could finish his words, another terrifying roar came from another direction. A third silver-eyed Yin corpse had appeared. The hearts of Lu Ming, Song Qiong, and the rest sank. 3 silver-eyed Yin corpses, their battle prowess was too terrifying. If not for the ancient city, they would be in danger. Now we can only rely on the blue firestone. Firmament said with a serious face. But their hearts were heavy. They did not know if the blue firestone on the divine weapon could deal with the silver-eyed Yin corpse. After all, the silver-eyed Yin corpse's battle prowess was too strong. If they were hit, they would be the first to die. Fortunately, the fourth extreme Yin corpse did not appear. There were only 3 of them, standing in 3 different directions of the ancient city, eyeing them covetously. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Dandan and the others finally succeeded in refining the divine weapons. Everyone went to the blue firestone mine in batches, and began to attach liquid blue firestone to their divine weapons. Everyone attached at least 2 divine weapons to their divine weapons as a precaution. If one of the divine weapons was damaged, they would still have a weapon to use. There were a total of 4,000 people in the ancient city. It took only 2 days for everyone to attach a layer of blue firestone to their divine weapons. Lu Ming also attached a layer of blue firestone to the tip of the battle god spear. The battle god spear looked blue as if it was made of blue gemstones. Lu Ming also attached a layer of blue firestone to another origin-grade divine weapon as a backup. Then, everyone from the heavenly human tribe and the quasi-saint tribe stood on the city wall and looked into the distance. Everyone, what should we do next? Song Qiong looked at Lu Ming and the Lord of Heaven. There are a total of 3 silver-eyed Yin corpses outside the city, and there are 3 of us. I think it's fair for each of us to deal with one of them. The corners of the heavenly Lord of Extermination's lips curled into a cold smile as he glanced at Lu Ming and the rest. This was obviously intentional. Although there were 3 parties here, Lu Ming and the others were too few. Even with Qiu, there were only 10 of them. It was very dangerous to deal with one silver-eyed Yin corpse. They wanted to use the power of the extreme Yin corpse to get rid of Lu Ming and the others. I agree. We have agreed to cooperate, so we have to contribute. We can't share the burden for them, right? That's right. It's best for 3 parties to attack from 3 directions. The Lord of Heaven and the others from the heavenly human tribe said. This firmament revealed a hesitant expression. He looked at Lu Ming and the group, seemingly in a difficult position. The Lord of Heaven's suggestion was reasonable, so he couldn't speak for Lu Ming and the others. Okay, we agree. Lu Ming replied. It was better to rely on oneself than to rely on mountains or water. It was impossible to rely on others. They could only take a gamble. If it really didn't work, they could just return to the ancient city. Alright, since that's the case, let's begin. Fight. Song Qiong shouted and his aura erupted. The red mark between his eyebrows emitted an astonishingly high temperature. A bright blue battle sword appeared in his hand, and a fiery red battle armor appeared on his body, covering his entire body within. Lu Ming could see that the battle sword and the battle armor were extraordinary. They were definitely not ordinary silver-level divine weapons. They were most likely top silver-level divine weapons. The quasi-saint tribe was unfathomable, and had an incomparably deep foundation. It wasn't strange for Song Qiong to have 2 top silver-level divine weapons. Chapter 48-22. With Song Qiong's talent and cultivation at the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm, coupled with 2 top-notch source-grade divine weapons, his combat strength was absolutely astonishing. Even the strongest experts at the level of the Lord of Heaven might not be his match. Just like Yi Qiuxian. When they attacked the Heaven Exterminating Army's base, Yi Qiuxian also had 2 top-notch source-level divine weapons, one for offense and one for defense. His combat power was very shocking. At that time, when Lu Ming fought with Yi Qiuxian, he was at a disadvantage in the beginning. It was best to rely on Qiu to defeat the opponent. The main reason was that Lu Ming lacked a defensive source-grade divine weapon. In terms of defense, he was inferior to the opponent and could not fully display his strength. Unfortunately, there were too few defensive source-grade divine weapons. It was extremely difficult to obtain one, not to mention a top-notch defensive source-grade divine weapon. Kill! Song Qiong shouted, and took the lead to rush out of the ancient city. The other experts of the quasi-saint tribe also followed closely behind Song Qiong. A few powerful experts stood on both sides of Song Qiong to protect him. With Song Qiong's combat strength, he was not afraid of the other extreme Yin corpses, but he was afraid of the silver-eyed Yin corpse. More than 2,000 experts of the quasi-saint tribe gathered together and rushed out like a sharp sword. The silver-eyed Yin corpse in this direction was emitting a dense black gas. Roar! A violent roar came from his mouth. Terrifying sound waves came from his mouth and swept out in all directions, causing the sky and earth to tremble. It seemed to be a command. When the other extreme Yin corpses heard it, they also roared. Like a tide, they rushed toward the quasi-saint tribe. The speed of both sides was very fast. In the blink of an eye, they collided. Kill. The divine weapons of the quasi-saint tribe? They were all covered with blue firestones and various weapons that attacked the extreme Yin corpses. Those extreme Yin corpses? Just like before? They only knew how to attack and did not care about defense. They were instantly hit. Puff. Puff. As if they were chopping vegetables? The quasi-saint tribe? They directly broke the defense of the extreme Yin corpses? Many of the extreme Yin corpses were split in half. Blue flames? Covering the extreme Yin corpses? The extreme Yin corpses let out painful roars. It's effective, haha die. Die. The people of the quasi-saint race were overjoyed when they saw that the divine weapons with blue firestones were effective. Their morale increased greatly. What followed was a storm-like attack. A large number of extreme Yin corpses? It was blasted into smithereens. Firmament? He also faced an extreme Yin corpse. This extreme Yin corpse had battle prowess comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. It was extremely terrifying. Invulnerable. Impervious to fire and water, indestructible. Whoosh. Song Cheong slashed out and clashed with the extreme Yin corpse's claws. With a clang, the extreme Yin corpse's claws were cut off. Furthermore, the sword did not stop as it continued to slash at the opponent. Puff. The battle sword chopped down on the head of the extreme Yin corpse and actually chopped off half of its head. Moreover, strands of blue flames spread down from its head, enveloping its entire upper body. Sizzling sounds came from the other party's body, and white smoke rose from it. Firmament seized the opportunity and attacked consecutively. Dense sword lights cut the other party into pieces. The other people from the quasi-sage tribe were in a similar situation. They relied on their divine weapons with blue firestones to completely crush the extreme Yin corpse. Roar. Finally, the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse let out an angry roar and charged toward Firmament, and the others like a bolt of lightning. However, there was a strong man beside Firmament who had not made a move previously. At this moment, his body was like a sharp sword as he flew toward the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. Wherever his body passed, the space exploded and burst out with terrifying energy. Boom! The strong man from the heavenly human tribe collided with the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse, and a shocking explosion erupted. Then the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse's burly figure was seen retreating. A deep wound appeared on its body, and blue flames kept flickering around the wound. What terrifying battle prowess! This battle prowess surpasses that of the strongest Lord of Heaven. The hearts of Lu Ming and the rest trembled. The quasi-sage tribe was indeed incredible and unfathomable. They actually had an expert with such battle prowess. This strong man from the quasi-sage tribe could contend with the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse even without the blue firestone. This battle prowess was definitely not weaker than Gu Changfeng. There was no suspense. Lu Ming and the others knew that there was no suspense in the battle between the quasi-sage tribe and the extreme Yin corpse. The strength of the strong man from the quasi-sage tribe was not weaker than the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. Coupled with the divine weapon attached to the blue firestone, his strength was completely above the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. It was only a matter of time before they defeated the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. Why are you still not making a move? Are you waiting for us to defeat the extreme Yin corpse so that you can take advantage of us? You don't want to do anything, right? At this moment, the extermination Lord of Heaven looked at Lu Ming and the others and ridiculed them. Aren't you also not making a move? Dandan retorted. We are about to make a move. We are just afraid that you will follow us and take advantage of us. That's why we didn't make a move. The extermination Lord of Heaven sneered. Don't worry, we won't take advantage of you. Let's go. Lu Ming said. After that, he stepped out and headed in another direction. Hee, I hope you can make it out smoothly. The extermination Lord of Heaven said hypocritically. Then he led the heavenly human tribe and rushed out of the ancient city. They charged in the direction of the other silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. The silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse roared, and ordered the other extreme Yin corpses to charge at the heavenly human tribe. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle. With our strength, we must have a plan to deal with the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. Let's do this later. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Xian Yanqing, Qiu Qiu Moon, Ling Yue and the others. Just now, Lu Ming had already thought of a plan to deal with the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse. With their strength, even if they had the blue firestone attached to the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse, they still had to plan carefully. Otherwise, it would be difficult to succeed. Alright, let's do it this way. The others nodded. Then they increased their speed and rushed out of the ancient city. Seeing Lu Ming and the others rushing over, the silver-eyed extreme Yin corpse in this direction let out a roar. Following that, an army of at least several thousand extreme Yin corpses rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. Although there were only 10 of them, Lu Ming and the others were not afraid at all. They directly clashed with the army of extreme Yin corpses. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Lu Ming waved his war god spear and shot out spear lights. Dozens of spear lights pierced dozens of extreme Yin corpses. These extreme Yin corpses, who had astonishing defensive power, were now defenseless against Lu Ming's attack. Their bodies were easily pierced by the war god spear. Wisps of blue flames enveloped these extreme Yin corpses. Haha kill. Beside Lu Ming, the bone demon emitted a soul fluctuation. He held the purple gold battle axe in his hand and continuously slashed out. Every time he slashed out, an extreme Yin corpse would be split in half. In an instant, more than 20 extreme Yin corpses had been slashed by the bone demon. The others were not bad. With the blue firestone attached to the divine weapon, dealing with these extreme Yin corpses became very easy. Chapter 48:23. Against these extreme Yin corpses, using a spear is a disadvantage. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Even if he used a spear to pierce a hole in the extreme Yin corpse, the extreme Yin corpse wouldn't die. It would only be injured by the blue flames. And splitting the extreme Yin corpse in half would cause it to lose its ability to fight for a short period of time. Then it would be much easier to kill it completely. Thinking of this, Lu Ming's spear changed. It no longer focused on stabbing, but on hacking and slashing. Xiu xiu xiu. The tip of the spear drew an arc like a blade as it struck the extreme Yin corpses one by one. Poo poo poo. These extreme Yin corpses were split in half and lost their ability to fight. Following that, the war god spear shook and a terrifying power burst out, crushing the extreme Yin corpses that were split in half and turning them into pieces. Lu Ming and the other 10 formed a circle. Lu Ming, Bone Demon, Qiu Qiu, Xian Yanqing, and Autumn Moon had the strength of the strongest Lord of Heaven and stood at the outermost circle. Wan Shun, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, and Bubbles were in the inner circle. As for Dandan, she was in the middle. Among the 10, only Dandan didn't attack the extreme Yin corpses, because he had been inscribing the array. In the blink of an eye, several hundred extreme Yin corpses were killed by Lu Ming and the others. With the blue firestone attached to the divine weapon, it was much easier to deal with the extreme Yin corpses. Previously, cutting the extreme Yin corpses was like an ordinary person holding a kitchen knife and cutting steel. Now it was like an ordinary person holding a kitchen knife and cutting cabbage. Yes, it was that easy. And the extreme Yin corpses were naturally afraid of the blue firestone. Facing the blue firestone, they couldn't use their full strength, so it was naturally easier to deal with them. Roar roar. Finally, a terrifying extreme Yin corpse approached Lu Ming and the others. Was it the extreme Yin corpse that was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven? There were a total of 10 of them. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. Strike out with the palm? The primeval desolation style erupted and condensed a continent, which pressed down on the 2 absolute Yin corpses. 2 absolute Yin corpses soared into the sky. Tear the continent apart? However, Lu Ming's follow-up attack arrived. Unleashing the heaven-breaking technique, man and spear became one, transforming into a dazzling spear light. Stabbing one of the absolute Yin corpses? It pierced through his body. Blue flames on blue firestones? Immediately diffusing out. This absolute Yin corpse was roaring, retreating rapidly. He urged the black gas to resist the blue flame with all his might. Subsequently, Lu Ming's figure turned and charged towards the second absolute Yin corpse. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, the absolute Yin corpse's claws continuously clawed out, bursting forth with terrifying claw radiance to resist Lu Ming. Rumble. The 2 of them exchanged more than 10 moves in a row. In the end, Lu Ming defeated these claw lights? The war god's spear pierced the palm of the absolute Yin corpse? He had easily broken through the opponent's defense and pierced through the opponent's palm. Furthermore, the war god's spear hadn't stopped. It continued forward and pierced through the absolute Yin corpse's chest. The absolute Yin corpse was heavily injured and quickly retreated. However, Lu Ming wouldn't let it leave so easily. His spear changed from a stab to a slash. Pooh! Its vitality was directly injured by the blue firestones. Naturally, it wasn't Lu Ming's opponent, and was immediately split in half. However, this kind of absolute Yin corpse was truly powerful. Its body that had been split in half was still covered in black gas, trying to recover. However, Lu Ming didn't stop attacking. The war god's spear continuously stabbed out, piercing the absolute Yin corpse. The blue flames on the blue firestones continued to spread out, completely enveloping the absolute Yin corpse and consuming its black gas. Following this, the war god's spear pressed down and the opponent's body exploded into pieces. An absolute Yin corpse that was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven was completely killed. Gu Mo, Xian Yanqing, Qiu Yu and Qiu Qiu, under the cooperation of the blue firestone, had also achieved great results. At this time, they had also killed an absolute Yin corpse that was comparable to the strongest Heaven Monarch realm. Of the 10 strongest absolute Yin corpses, only 5 were left. Roar! Finally, the silver-eyed Yin corpse couldn't hold back anymore and attacked. It let out a loud roar and charged towards Lu Ming and the others. "Be careful, defend!" Lu Ming shouted as he quickly retreated back into the circle. Bone Demon, Qiu Qiu, Xian Yanqing, and Autumn Moon also retreated and regrouped with the others. They formed a circle again, surrounding the weaker ones in the middle. After the silver-eyed Yin corpse charged out for a distance, it stopped when it was dozens of miles away from Lu Ming and the others. It didn't continue to charge forward. Instead, it waved its 2 sharp claws and clawed out continuously. Chi chi chi. As the sharp claws clawed out, the void was torn apart. Several terrifying claw radiances shot towards Lu Ming at a shocking speed. "Block it!" Lu Ming shouted as he recovered the war god's spear. He continuously swept out and hit several claw radiances. Wang! The war god's spear vibrated violently. Lu Ming felt a terrifying energy surging from the war god's spear and into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body shook violently as he couldn't help but retreat. His feet created 2 deep pits in the ground. Lu Ming's arms were trembling slightly. The blood in his body was in turmoil, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Too strong. The silver-eyed Yin corpse's attack power was too strong. It was far stronger than the strongest Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming wanted to block it, but it was difficult. This was only the claw radiance. The opponent's body hadn't come close, so its attack power couldn't be fully unleashed. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have been seriously injured. It was definitely comparable to Gu Changfeng's battle power. However, the opponent's intelligence wasn't low. It was obviously wary of the blue firestone and didn't dare to come close. It only dared to attack from afar. Roar! The silver-eyed Yin corpse let out another roar. Its 2 claws fiercely clawed out again. 2 claw radiances flew out and continued to claw at Lu Ming. Obviously, the silver-eyed Yin corpse wanted to attack one point and break through it. Then it would completely defeat Lu Ming and the others. "I'll block his attack." The bone demon's voice rang out. Its body flashed and appeared in front of Lu Ming. It ignored its own defense and allowed the claw radiances to hit its body. Dang dang. The bone demon's body was pushed back. However, nothing happened to it. The bone demon's body was too hard. In terms of defense, it was stronger than the silver-eyed Yin corpse. The silver-eyed Yin corpse's attack couldn't break the bone demon's defense at all. It could only push the bone demon back. After the bone demon was pushed back, its strength exploded, and it charged at the silver-eyed Yin corpse again. It wanted to fight with the silver-eyed Yin corpse. The silver-eyed Yin corpse roared and clawed out again. The terrifying claw radiances bombarded the bone demon's body again, sending it flying. However, the bone demon was still fine. "Ha ha ha, come on, come on." The bone demon laughed and continued to charge forward. The silver-eyed Yin corpse obviously didn't know how to use soul attacks. It couldn't hurt the bone demon's soul. It wasn't a threat to the Bone Demon at all. The Bone Demon continued to charge at the silver-eyed corpse. This time, the silver-eyed corpse was smarter. It didn't attack the Bone Demon anymore. Instead, its body flashed and disappeared like a flash of lightning. It appeared in another direction and clawed at Autumn Moon with 2 claw radiances. 9 apertures in 1 slash. Autumn Moon used her strongest attack. A blade radiance slashed out and collided with the 2 claw radiances. Chapter 48-24. However, just like Lu Ming, Autumn Moon found it difficult to completely block the power of the claw. There was still some residual power that hit Autumn Moon's body, causing Autumn Moon's figure to explosively retreat with a red face. Shwa shwa. This silver-eyed corpse was really smart. Seeing that the attack was effective against Autumn Moon, it continued to attack. Your opponent is me. Bone Demon shouted and charged towards Autumn Moon, helping Autumn Moon block the second attack. However, the silver-eyed corpse's figure flashed again and appeared in front of Lu Ming. Its sharp claws pierced through the air, and 2 claw attacks attacked Lu Ming. The silver-eyed corpse was too fast and Bone Demon alone could not block it. Fortunately, Qiu was already prepared. In a flash, Qiu appeared on Lu Ming's divine spear and turned into a halberd, slashing out. However, Qiu was also not a match and its body was sent flying. However, like Bone Demon, Qiu was only sent flying and was fine. Qiu was a metal life form, so its vitality and defense were already very high. Moreover, Qiu had also swallowed an Origin-grade Divine Weapon Battle Armor, and had the defensive power of an Origin-grade Divine Weapon Battle Armor. It made its own defensive power even more shocking. The silver-eyed corpse could not break through Qiu's defense with just the claw attacks. Bone Demon, let's each take one side and block its attacks. Qiu transmitted to Bone Demon. Alright, Bone Demon replied and stared at the silver-eyed corpse with Qiu on one side. Next, the silver-eyed corpse continuously changed its position and launched several attacks, but they were all blocked by Bone Demon and Qiu. Bone Demon and Qiu worked together and finally caught up with the silver-eyed corpse's rhythm. Roar roar. The silver-eyed corpse let out an angry roar. A fierce glint flashed in its eyes. This silver-eyed corpse is about to lose its mind. I'm afraid it won't take long. Is it going to risk a close combat attack? Dandan, how's your array formation going? Lu Ming transmitted to everyone and finally asked Dandan. Soon. Hold on a little longer. Dandan replied. He had long since reverted to his original form. The tortoise shell was suffused with runes. A large number of runes were constantly being emitted. They seeped into the void. His whole body was emitting white smoke. Clearly, he had already given it his all. At this moment, in other directions, the quasi-saint race had already finished their battle. Among them, with a peerless expert who had surpassed the strongest Lord of Heaven and the Blue Firestone, there was basically no suspense in the battle. It did not take long for the silver-eyed corpse to be killed. Killed the silver-eyed corpse? Then deal with the other absolute corpses? Even easier? Several thousand absolute corpses. Very quickly the quasi-saint race finished them off. The ground was filled with the remains of the extreme corpse. They stood high in the sky and looked down at the battlefield between the heavenly human tribe and Lu Ming. Young master? Should we go and help them? A person from the quasi-saint race asked. Help them? Why should we help them? Didn't we say that each of us would take care of one side? Let's just let them take care of it themselves. Let's go to that Qi meridian that's about to collapse. Song Qiong said indifferently. Then the people from the quasi-saint race quickly left the place and disappeared without a trace. At this moment, the battle between the heavenly human tribe and the extreme corpse had reached its final juncture. Originally, although the heavenly human tribe had the combat strength of the 6th strongest Lord of Heaven, it was very difficult for them to fight against the silver-eyed corpse. However, they had a secret treasure. This secret treasure was a one-time use secret treasure. It was very precious and priceless. Even the Lord of Heaven Exterminator and the others only had one of it. This secret treasure was dug out by the heavenly human tribe from a ruin of the universe. Once it was activated, it could transform into thousands of powerful puppets and firmly entangle the silver-eyed corpse. In addition, the two primitive puppets fought desperately to entangle the silver-eyed corpse. After paying a heavy price, they finally killed the Lord of Heaven Exterminator. The Lord of Heaven Exterminator and the others seized the opportunity to attack the silver-eyed corpse with their divine weapons that were enchanted with blue firestones. Finally, they successfully killed the silver-eyed corpse. However, in this battle, the heavenly human tribe had destroyed a priceless secret treasure. The two primitive puppets were also severely injured. One of them was almost torn in half. The other puppet's body was also in tatters. However, this primitive puppet had become very evil after the heavenly human tribe's continuous experiments. It had integrated dozens of top forces in the universe. Although it was severely injured, it could recover quickly. After killing the silver-eyed corpse, it was easy to deal with the other extreme corpses. The heavenly human tribe quickly took control of the situation. Then they looked at the battlefield where Lu Ming and the others were fighting. There are 5 masters comparable to the Lord of Heaven. This Lu Ming, the pupils of the Lord of Heaven Exterminator, the Lord of Heaven Exterminator, and the others constricted violently. Deep fear appeared in their eyes. Lu Ming and the others only had 10 people, but there were 5 of them who were as powerful as the Lord of Heaven. This was too terrifying. Exterminator, should we leave or? The Lord of Heaven Exterminator asked. No, I want to watch here. Although Lu Ming and the others have the strength of the Lord of Heaven Exterminator, they are definitely not a match for the silver-eyed corpse. Sooner or later, the silver-eyed corpse will kill them one by one. I want to see how Lu Ming is killed with my own eyes. The Lord of Heaven Exterminator said coldly. They looked at the battlefield where Lu Ming and the others were fighting. They wanted to see with their own eyes how Lu Ming and the others were killed by the extreme corpse. At this moment, the battle between Lu Ming and the extreme corpse had entered a critical moment. The silver-eyed corpse finally couldn't hold it in, and gradually lost its mind. It let out an angry roar and charged at Lu Ming and the others, intending to engage in close combat. Be careful, Lu Ming shouted. The silver-eyed corpse's strength was terrifying, and the most terrifying thing was undoubtedly its close combat. It was very dangerous. Lu Ming, Bone Demon, Qiu, Xianyanqing, and Qiu increased their strength to the limit, preparing to fight the silver-eyed corpse and stall for time. I'll do it. Bone Demon roared and rushed out first. He charged at the silver-eyed corpse and slashed out with his purple-gold battle axe. The silver-eyed corpse roared and didn't dodge. Instead, it clawed at Bone Demon with its sharp claws. With a clang, the purple-gold battle axe clashed with the silver-eyed corpse's claws, causing a loud explosion. Then, Bone Demon's body was sent flying by the powerful force. The silver-eyed corpse paused for a moment before charging at Lu Ming and the others. Only one nail was broken. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. One had to know that the purple-gold battle axe in Bone Demon's hand was already covered with blue firestone. It could restrain the extreme corpse and easily break its defense. But in the collision just now, it only managed to cut off one nail. It was clear that the silver-eyed corpse was too strong. Its body was immortal, and had a strong resistance against the blue firestone. Even if it relied on the blue firestone, it wouldn't be easy to break its defense. Freeze for me! Qiu roared and shot out an illusory light beam, enveloping the silver-eyed corpse. The silver-eyed corpse's body paused for a moment. Chapter 48:25. Qiu's illusory light pillar was effective against the silver-eyed corpse. This meant that the silver-eyed corpse had a soul, and was affected by the illusory light pillar. However, it only affected the silver-eyed corpse for a short while. Black qi surged from its body and destroyed the illusory light pillar in an instant. It then charged towards Lu Ming's group. At this time, Xianyanqing and Autumn Moon made their moves one after another. Xianyanqing summoned the immeasurable devil steel's phantom image. It emitted a torrential devil qi that suppressed the silver-eyed corpse. On the other hand, Autumn Moon slashed out with his strongest blade. Boom! Boom! The silver-eyed corpse's sharp claws slashed out continuously, destroying Xianyanqing and Autumn Moon's attacks. However, Autumn Moon's battle blade was also covered in blue firestones. This attack successfully cut off one of the silver-eyed corpse's fingernails. Desolate style. Sky-breaking style. Lu Ming also made his move. First he struck out with his palm. Then he became one with his spear and stabbed towards the silver-eyed Yin corpse. However, the silver-eyed Yin corpse only needed a claw to tear the land into pieces. Then it grabbed the war god spear's tip. Sizzle! The war god spear's tip pierced the silver-eyed Yin corpse's palm. Sizzle! Sizzle! Sparks flew in all directions. The war god spear's body bent. At the same time, Lu Ming felt an incomparably terrifying energy rushing towards him from the war god's spear. With a cracking sound, the bones in Lu Ming's hand immediately broke. He retreated rapidly, only stopping when he was beside Ling Yue and the others. It didn't pierce through. Lu Ming's pupils shrank. He clearly saw that the silver-eyed Yin corpse's palm wasn't pierced through by him. It was only pierced halfway through. Blue flames spread out from the wound on the silver-eyed Yin corpse's palm. It covered the entire palm and quickly spread up the arm. Roar! The silver-eyed Yin corpse let out a terrifying roar that shook heaven and earth. The black chi on its body surged and rushed towards its arm, forcibly suppressing the blue flames. Then the silver-eyed Yin corpse charged towards Lu Ming and the others. Bone Demon, Qiu, Lu Ming, Xianyanqing, and Autumn Moon had no choice but to work together to block the attack. This time, Lu Ming waved his hand and shot out hundreds of long needles and shuttles made from blue firestones, charging towards the silver-eyed Yin corpse. However, without the support of the divine weapon, without the support of their own strength, the blue firestone was too weak. The silver-eyed Yin corpse waved his sharp claws and shot out waves of energy, destroying the blue firestone needles and shuttles. However, Lu Ming and the others had long since expected this. With a wave of their hands, a large amount of blue firestone powder flew out, covering a large area. This affected the silver-eyed Yin corpse a little. The blue firestone powder covered his body and made sizzling sounds. It affected the silver-eyed Yin corpse's speed and strength. Then Lu Ming and the others used all their strength to barely block the silver-eyed Yin corpse's attack, but they were also forced to retreat. Bone Demon and Qiu were still fine, but Lu Ming, Xianyanqing, and Autumn Moon were all injured, with blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. This was under the premise of the blue firestone. Although the silver-eyed Yin corpse had a strong resistance to the blue firestone, the blue firestone could still affect him. Especially when it was attached to a divine weapon, its power was astonishing. If the silver-eyed Yin corpse was hit, he would also be injured. Otherwise, Lu Ming and the others would not be able to fight against such an expert. For example, Lu Ming and the others would be defeated quickly in the battle against Gu Changfeng, or the Yi Immortal. They would definitely not be able to hold on for so long. Lu Ming and the others used all kinds of methods to fight against the silver-eyed Yin corpse with the help of the blue firestone for more than 10 minutes. Done, I've done it. Finally, Dandan's voice rang in everyone's ears. Everyone's spirits were lifted. They had been waiting for this moment. Act according to the plan. Attack. Lu Ming transmitted to everyone. Freeze. Qiu shouted, and was the first to attack. He shot out an illusory light beam, and enveloped the silver-eyed Yin corpse. Although Qiu's illusory light beam had an effect on the silver-eyed Yin corpse, the effect was very small. Under normal circumstances, the silver-eyed Yin corpse would be able to break free in an instant. But now what they needed was just an instant. That was enough. Spacetime Swamp. Bubble immediately attacked. Her glabella glowed and 2 origin source ancient characters flew out. The spacetime power erupted and enveloped the silver-eyed Yin corpse in it. Roar. The silver-eyed Yin corpse roared angrily. Black gas erupted and he struggled to break free from the illusory light beam. A powerful force rushed out, wanting to destroy Bubble's spacetime swamp. Bubble's spacetime power was very strong. Unfortunately, her cultivation was a little weak. She was only at the 7th layer Divine Master realm, which was too far away from the silver-eyed Yin corpse. At most, she could only affect it a little, but a little bit of effect was enough. Heavenly Demon Field. Xianyanqing and Bubble attacked at almost the same time, striking out with the Heavenly Demon Field. With Xianyanqing's cultivation and the support of the immeasurable Devil Steel, the Heavenly Demon Field's power reached its peak. In addition to Bubble's spacetime power, the silver-eyed Yin corpse's speed decreased by a lot. It was as if he had fallen into a swamp. Inescapable net, seal for me. Dandan roared and pressed his palms against the void. Runes filled the void and intertwined to form a formation. This formation formed an inescapable net. There were 2 nets above and below, enveloping the silver-eyed corpse. The silver-eyed corpse was affected by the illusory light beam, space-time swamp, and heavenly demon field. It was too late for it to escape the formation's range. Roar! The silver-eyed corpse roared and struggled madly. However, this formation was something Dandan had obtained from the myriad transformations ruins. It had taken him a lot of time to set it up. It was extremely powerful, and the silver-eyed corpse wouldn't be able to break free in a short time. Lu Ming and the others wouldn't give him the time to break free. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, Bone Devil, Qiuqiu Myriad God, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, and the others attacked together. Swoosh! 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 Ling Yue drew her bow and shot out 9 arrows in succession. These arrows weren't formed from energy, but were real divine weapons. Each arrow's arrowhead had a blue firestone attached to it. The 9 arrows were the first to approach the silver-eyed corpse. Although the silver-eyed corpse sent 6 arrows flying, 3 arrows still hit the silver-eyed corpse. 3 small holes appeared on the silver-eyed corpse's body. The blue flames on the silver-eyed corpse immediately spread out along the small holes. Subsequently, Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, and the others' attacks arrived. Autumn Moon slashed out with all her strength, aiming for the silver-eyed corpse's head. The silver-eyed corpse waved its arm to block the attack. The battle blade slashed at the silver-eyed corpse's arm. The silver-eyed corpse's other arm blocked Qiuqiu's attack. However, although he used his arm to block Autumn Moon and Qiuqiu's attacks, his arm was still injured. The blue flame spread and quickly consumed the silver-eyed corpse's black gas. Lu Ming and Bone Devil's attacks also arrived. Chapter 48-26. Lu Ming threw the War God Spear out. The War God Spear pierced toward the silver-eyed corpse like a bolt of lightning. The silver-eyed corpse could no longer dodge. With a puff, the silver-eyed corpse's chest was pierced by the War God Spear. However, the spear did not penetrate the silver-eyed corpse's chest. Half was enough. Blue flames spread out and enveloped the silver-eyed corpse's upper body in blue flames. Lu Ming held a battle sword in his hand and slashed at the silver-eyed corpse. This battle sword was also a soul-grade divine weapon. It was also covered in blue firestones. Lu Ming's battle sword and Bone Demon's purple-gold battle axe hit the silver-eyed corpse at the same time. The silver-eyed corpse's defense had been weakened many times. With Lu Ming and Bone Demon attacking with all their strength, they finally broke through the silver-eyed corpse's defense. The silver-eyed corpse was cut into 3 pieces. The raging blue flames completely enveloped the silver-eyed corpse. Then, Wan Shen and Tang Jun's attacks also arrived. They bombarded the silver-eyed corpse's remaining body parts and broke it into dozens of pieces. Lu Ming and the others did not stop. They continued to attack. Boom boom boom. After another wave of attacks, the silver-eyed corpse was completely smashed into powder. It could no longer be revived. The silver-eyed corpse was finally destroyed by Lu Ming and the others' meticulous plan. Buzz. Lu Ming grabbed the War God Spear and stabbed it to the right. It pierced through a desolate corpse that was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. Then he slashed the desolate corpse on the left and right, splitting it in half. Although the desolate corpse was killed, the battle was not over. The remaining desolate corpses did not have any rationality. After the silver-eyed corpse died, they charged at Lu Ming and the others. However, without the silver-eyed corpse, these desolate corpses were no longer a threat to Lu Ming and the others. This scene was seen by the heavenly human tribe in the distance. Damn it, they killed the silver-eyed corpse. The Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles roared angrily. He was extremely unhappy. What a brilliant plan. This Lu Ming really has a deep mind. He made a series of arrangements and perfectly combined their strengths to kill the silver-eyed corpse. But this also proves one thing. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination said, but he was not as angry as the Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles. What is it? The heavenly monarch of 100 Battles asked. When they were attacked by the silver-eyed corpse earlier, they were in a perilous situation. Lu Ming's 2 women were both injured. But Lu Ming did not use any stronger strength. It seems like the old ancestor's guess was right. The Heavenly Lord of Extermination said coldly. There was a sneer at the corners of his lips. His fear of Lu Ming had dissipated by half. You mean Lu Ming can't use the strength that he used to kill the 3 strongest Lord of Heaven? The Lord of Heaven of 100 battles, eyes lit up as he remembered. It's most likely that he can't use it. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to sit back and watch his women get injured. But just in case, we still have to observe. If he can't use that kind of strength, then Lu Ming will be much easier to deal with, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination said. He was mainly afraid of the strength that Lu Ming used in the Heaven Destroyer Station. It was too strong. Killing the strongest Lord of Heaven was like chopping melons and vegetables. Without that kind of strength, Lu Ming was only comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. He himself was the strongest Lord of Heaven. What was there to be afraid of? However, he still didn't dare to deal with Lu Ming. Firstly, Lu Ming's side also had 5 most powerful heavenly lords. Although there were 6 of them, the 2 primitive divine spirit puppets were seriously injured. If they were to strike now, they would not be able to do anything to Lu Ming and the rest. There was one more thing. He was afraid that Lu Ming could still use that kind of power. Let's go. We'll leave first, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination said, and left with the heavenly human tribe. Outside the ancient city, only Lu Ming and the others were still fighting with the Extreme Yin Corps. However, the remaining Extreme Yin corpses weren't a threat to Lu Ming and the others. With the support of the Blue Firestone, a large number of Extreme Yin corpses were killed. Soon, the strongest batch of Extreme Yin corpses were killed by Lu Ming and the others. They then rushed out of the encirclement and shook off the weaker Extreme Yin corpses. Lu Ming, where are we going next? Guemo asked. When we went to the ancient city with the Quasi-Saint tribe, we saw a chi vein that was about to collapse. Let's go there, Lu Ming said. It wasn't easy to find a chi vein. When a chi vein collapsed, the treasures under it would fly out. This was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. The others naturally didn't have any objections. The group flew in the direction of the chi vein. Although they occasionally encountered a few Extreme Yin corpses on the way, they weren't a threat to them and were easily killed. Soon Lu Ming and the others arrived near the chi vein again. Last time, when they passed by this chi vein, there were many Extreme Yin corpses around it. But this time, they didn't see any Extreme Yin corpses. Because they were all killed. They were all killed by the Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. Not far ahead, there were a large number of figures. They were the Quasi-Saint tribe led by Tsangqiang, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination, and the Heavenly Human tribe led by the Lord of Heaven of 100 battles. Obviously, they came here after leaving the ancient city. Rumble. A dull rumble came from underground. On the surface, the Chi Meridian was actually a mountain range. It was incomparably majestic. At this moment, huge cracks appeared on this majestic mountain range, spreading out in all directions. From time to time, dazzling purple-gold light rushed out from the cracks. The Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe stood outside the mountain range and didn't approach. Lu Ming and the others flew over. The Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe naturally discovered Lu Ming and the others. Song Qiong's eyes flickered. He was surprised to see Lu Ming and the others. At this moment, Lu Ming and the others had almost recovered from their injuries. Song Qiong didn't expect that Lu Ming and the others would get rid of the Extreme Yin corpses and come here unscathed. Brother Lu, it's great that you're fine. Song Qiong smiled and walked over to greet Lu Ming. Hypocrite. Dandan snorted in displeasure. However, his voice didn't spread out. It only echoed in the ears of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others. Song Qiong didn't hear it. Lu Ming naturally knew why Dandan was unhappy. There was a powerful expert in the Quasi-Saint tribe. They had gotten rid of the silver-eyed Yin corpse long ago, but left alone without any intention to help. What about the alliance? Moreover, Lu Ming and the others had saved the people of the Quasi-Saint tribe. Song Qiong looked polite and gentle on the surface, but he was actually very sinister. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Wan Shen, and the others were all experienced people. They controlled their expressions well. Although they were unhappy, They didn't show it on the surface. After all, now wasn't the time to offend the quasi-saint tribe. Heaven Destroyer had a hard time dealing with the creatures of the Forbidden Area and the heavenly human tribe. There was no need to become enemies with the quasi-saint tribe. Chapter 48:27. Lu Ming smiled and said, "Thank you for your concern, Brother Tsang Qiong. We were lucky to be able to deal with the extreme mean corpse. It's all thanks to the blue firestone." Lu Ming said briefly before changing the topic, "Brother Tsang Qiong, why don't you enter the realm veins to search for treasures? We also want to enter, but it's very dangerous now. The realm veins are filled with dense heavenly paradise light. It's very dangerous when the realm veins crack and the heavenly paradise light will rush out. Once struck by the heavenly paradise light, even origin realm experts will be injured, let alone us. We can only enter when the heavenly paradise light overflows from the realm veins." Tsang Qiong explained. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The heavenly paradise light mentioned by Tsang Qiong was the purplish golden light. Indeed, the heavenly paradise light was very dangerous. Some of the heavenly paradise light would rush out of the heavenly paradise. They had relied on the crossing flying ship to enter the purple heaven paradise. However, the heavenly paradise light here was even denser. It rushed out directly from the realm veins, and was even more powerful. Even the crossing flying ship might not be able to withstand it. Only when the heavenly paradise light overflowed would the realm veins be safe. Now they could only wait outside the mountain range. Lu Ming's group finally understood why the people of the quasi-saint tribe and heavenly human tribe were surrounding the area. On the other side, the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation and the Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles looked over coldly. Dandan glared back. However, Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to the people of the heavenly human tribe. Instead, he studied the mountain range. This mountain range was the realm veins. It was extremely huge and spanned a wide area. There were a few huge cracks on the mountain range. From time to time, purplish golden heavenly paradise light would overflow. Rumbling sounds came from the cracks. After a while, boom! An even more violent rumble erupted. An even denser heavenly paradise light rushed out. Accompanying the heavenly paradise light were specks of light that resembled raindrops. Desolation crystals. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. What were those specks of heavenly paradise light? They were clearly desolation crystals. Densely packed? At least 100,000 crystals. Heavenly abode light? As they soared into the sky, the great desolate crystals scattered in all directions. There was nothing to hesitate about. Quasi-immortal race? The members of the heavenly human tribe all rushed toward the desolate gems. Lu Ming, Xianyanqing, and the others also moved. Using body movement techniques, he charged towards the desolate crystals. Lu Ming used the Great Aurora technique, body like an aurora, rushing to the front. The activation of forbidden power? They transformed into giant hands that grabbed at the desolate crystals. Soon, a few thousand desolate crystals were in his hands. The others also used their own methods. In just a few breaths' time, over 100,000 desolate crystals had been completely divided. Was it because there were too many people? The quasi-immortal race and the celestial race combined? More than 4,000 people? So many people attacking together? Naturally, it was divided very quickly. I got 5,000 primordial crystals in one go. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded in satisfaction. Did Lu Ming obtain the desolate crystal just now? It was about 5,000 yuan. It accounted for 1/20th of the desolate crystals that flew out just now. If there's a piece that isn't a desolate crystal. Suddenly Lu Ming's heart stirred. He discovered that among the 5,000 plus desolate crystals just now, there was one that was very different from the other desolate crystals. With a thought, this desolate crystal appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This desolate crystal looked similar to the other desolate crystals, but its aura was completely different. Inside the desolate crystal, there was rich and pure desolate qi. However, there was no desolate qi in this piece. Instead, there was a trace of origin mark. Origin mark. That's right, it was the origin mark. Could this be a treasure that contains the origin mark? Xianyanqing, Tangjun, Dandan, and the others were also curiously sizing up the desolate crystal in Lu Ming's hand. Dandan said curiously, This should be an immortal crystal. Suddenly, a clear voice sounded from the sky. Immortal crystal? Brother Songqiong, what's an immortal crystal? Lu Ming asked curiously, because this was the first time he had heard of this name. Immortal crystals were the name given to these crystals in the last epoch. Crystals with origin imprints like the one in Brother Lu's hand were known as immortal crystals during the primordial continent. They're extremely useful to those at reciprocity or above. They can increase the cultivation of those at reciprocity or above. They're priceless, said Jianchen. However, immortal crystals are divided into different grades as well. The one in Brother Lu's hand should be of the lowest grade, but it's still extremely valuable. Although it's not as valuable as Origin Tier God pills, it's not too far off. It's far more valuable than Master Tier God pills, or Desolate Crystals. Song Qiong explained. Only then did Lu Ming and the rest understand that these immortal crystals were used by those at or above the Origin realm to cultivate and increase their cultivation level. Actually, during the Desolate Continent, Desolate Crystals were not called Desolate Crystals. Desolate crystals were only a name given to the creatures of the new epoch. During the Desolate Continent, desolate crystals were known as immortal crystals. They were used by those below reciprocity to cultivate. They were used as currency along with immortal crystals, but they were one grade lower than immortal crystals, Song Qiong continued. Clearly, Song Qiong understood the matters of the Desolate Continent extremely well. So desolate crystals were known as immortal crystals in the last epoch. Lu Ming and the others murmured. Let's not talk about it anymore. Brother Lu's luck is very good. He obtained an immortal crystal as soon as he arrived. We didn't obtain a single one before. Song Qiong smiled. I was just lucky. Lu Ming replied courteously. Afterward, no one said anything more. They continued to wait. However, when they saw Lu Ming obtain an immortal crystal, they all became even more excited. Without a doubt, immortal crystals were far more valuable than desolate crystals. Although many people could not use them right now, immortal crystals were supreme treasures after reaching reciprocity. They could rapidly increase one's cultivation. Even if they did not use them, they could sell them to Origin Realm existences in the future to obtain a large amount of treasures. How many treasures were there in the depths of this meridian? Later on, the meridian shook more and more violently. From time to time, heavenly abode light would rush out, accompanied by desolate crystals and the others. In less than a month, millions of desolate crystals had rushed out of the meridian. Moreover, there were 5 immortal crystals. It was really hard to say how many treasures were there in the depths of the meridian. Later on, the heavenly abode light overflowing from the meridian became fainter and fainter. Everyone knew that the heavenly abode light in the meridian was finally about to disperse. Once the heavenly abode light dissipated, they could rush in and sweep away all the treasures in the meridian. Everyone, how should we distribute the treasures we obtain after entering the meridian? Although the 3 of us are in a cooperative relationship now, one of us is too weak. No one knows whether there are dangers in the meridian. We don't want to take risks for the weak side. At this moment, the Lord of Heaven's cold voice resounded. He glanced at the quasi-immortal tribe Lu Ming and the others. Chapter 48:28. Lu Ming and the rest sneered. Of course, they knew who the weak party, that the Heavenly Lord of Extermination was referring to. He was obviously referring to Lu Ming and the rest. The quasi-sage race and the celestial race had more than 2,000 experts. As for Lu Ming and the others, including Qiu, there were only 10 of them. In comparison, their strength was too weak. Obviously, the Lord of Heaven's subtext was that Lu Ming and the others were not worthy of cooperating with the quasi-sage race and the celestial race. Song Qiong pondered for a moment and said, "Why don't we split up? Otherwise, when we enter the Qi meridians, it will hurt our harmony because of the treasures." Once they entered the Qi meridians, everyone would want to obtain the treasures. It was inevitable that a fight would occur. If they split up, they could avoid this problem. Although Song Qiong was much more polite, his meaning was the same as the celestial race. He didn't want to move together with Lu Ming and the others. With Lu Ming and the others' intelligence, how could they not understand? These guys, Dandan was very unhappy. Good, that's just right. Lu Ming spoke. To tell the truth, he didn't want to cooperate with these people. Then let's choose the direction to enter the Qi meridians. That direction will belong to us. The Lord of Heaven spoke and pointed to the northeast direction. We are the first to arrive here. Let's enter the Qi meridians from here. Song Qiong also spoke. Why are you the first to choose? Why did you choose the two best places? Dandan finally couldn't help but shout. Wan Shun, Ling Yue, and the others also revealed angry expressions. The location to enter the Qi meridians was also very particular. The celestial race and the quasi-sage race chose the two directions with the largest cracks. The heavenly abode divine light that overflowed the most was also the densest. It was very likely that there were the most treasures inside. Comparatively speaking, the other locations were much worse. Our two groups came first. First come, first served. Naturally, we'll choose first. Furthermore, there are so many people in our two groups. Even if there are treasures, each of us will only be able to obtain a small portion. On the other hand, there are only 10 of you. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination said coldly. That's right. Furthermore, other than those two positions, there are so many other positions for you all to choose from. It's one thing for you all to not thank us, but instead, you all are blaming us. You are truly too greedy. The heavenly monarch of 100 battles continued. F***ck, this is all nonsense. What does this have to do with the number of people? This time it was the myriad god who was cursing. He was furious and looked like he was about to attack. However, a hand grabbed Wan Shun's shoulder and said, "Forget it. I can't be bothered with these shameless people. Let's choose another location." The one who had stopped the myriad gods was actually Dandan. Could it be that Dandan discovered something? Lu Ming knew Dandan too well. When he saw Dandan's eyes, he knew that this guy had most likely discovered something. The previous clamor was just an act. Otherwise, given Dandan's personality, he would definitely erupt with Wan Shun. Why would he stop Wan Shun? On what basis? They clearly chose the best location. Wan Shun was still unconvinced. Wan Shun, forget it. We can't be bothered to fight with them. Let's go to another location. Lu Ming stopped Wan Shun and flew to another location. Lu Ming spoke. Wan Shun was helpless. He could only snort angrily and follow Lu Ming. Xian Yanqing, Ling Yue, and the others followed. It seems that Lu Ming's strength is indeed limited. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination was even more relieved. He had chosen a good location for two reasons. First, a good location naturally had good treasures. Second, he wanted to test Lu Ming. If Lu Ming was really strong, he wouldn't have swallowed his anger. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination was less wary of Lu Ming. He led the people of the heavenly human race to the location they had chosen. Lu Ming and the others also came to another location. Lu Ming and Dandan, why did you retreat? If we really wanted to fight, although they have more people, we might not be afraid. Wan Shun grumbled unhappily. You'll have to ask Dandan this question. Dandan, did you discover something? Lu Ming asked Dandan. Haha, as expected of Lu Ming. You have some of my demeanor. That's right, I did discover something. I sensed the fluctuations of an array formation from another location. Dandan smiled proudly. Fluctuations of an array formation? What do you mean? Wan Shun still didn't understand. The fluctuations of the array formation are not on the mountain range, but under the Qi meridian. Dandan added. At this moment Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Tang Jun, and Guemo all reacted. Their eyes suddenly lit up. There were fluctuations of an array formation under the Qi meridian. This was enough to explain a lot of things. One had to know that there weren't any buildings on this Qi meridian, nor were there any arrays. This meant that no one lived here in the previous era. But there were fluctuations of an array formation under an uninhabited Qi meridian. This was definitely not simple. Could it be that some powerhouse from the previous era opened up a cave abode under the Qi meridian? According to some information obtained from the universe ruins, those powerhouses from the previous era loved to open up cave abodes in remote places. If they could find a cave abode opened up by a powerhouse from the previous era, they might be able to gain a lot. What do you mean? Wan Shun was still a little confused. Big guy, your brain is not good. Learn more from me in the future. Look at how smart Lu Ming is. It's because he has been with me for a long time. Then, Dandan briefly explained his speculation. I see. No wonder you guys won't give in so easily. Haha, let's go quickly. Wan Xin was overjoyed. Let's go. Dandan led the way and soon they arrived at their destination. This was the other side of the Qi Meridian. It was a little far from the location chosen by the Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe. The crack here was very small. The heavenly abode divine light that overflowed from it previously wasn't dense. The Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe definitely wouldn't choose this place. Dandan, is this the place? Lu Ming asked. After arriving here, Lu Ming and the others still didn't feel any fluctuations of an array formation. However, they doubted Dandan's words. Dandan's perception of arrays was too sharp. He shouldn't be wrong. Yes, this is the place. Let's wait a little longer. When the heavenly abode divine light overflows a little more, we'll go in. Dandan said. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days passed. At this time, the heavenly abode divine light in the Qi Meridian had almost dissipated. Even if there was some remaining, it was very thin. Lu Ming and the others could deal with it. In the other two directions, the Quasi-Saint tribe and the Heavenly Human tribe had already entered the Qi Meridian to search for treasures. Let's go. Lu Ming took the lead and rushed into the crack under his feet. The battle god spear was already in his hand. The taboo energy spread all over his body as he was on high alert. Chapter 48-29. Who knew what dangers there would be in the Qi Meridian? After all, this blessed paradise was no longer the same. Other places contained a large number of extreme corpses, so it was not impossible for the Qi Meridian to contain other strange things. It was better to be careful. Their formation was the same as before. Lu Ming, Bone Demon, Qiu Qiu, Xian Yinqing and Autumn Moon were at the outermost circle, surrounding Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Myriad God, Dandan and Bubbles. Yet there's no such cold aura in this Qi Meridian. As soon as they entered the Qi Meridian, Lu Ming and the others felt that there was no cold aura in the Qi Meridian like outside. Without the cold aura, it might be able to nurture a precious divine medicine. Dandan's eyes lit up. The reason why they couldn't find the divine medicine outside was because the cold aura was everywhere, destroying the illusion that nurtured the divine medicine. It should be because of the heavenly passage divine light that the cold aura could not invade. The environment was unique, and it might be able to nurture a rare divine medicine. The crevice was very deep. They flew down for hundreds of miles, but they were still far from reaching the end. We're almost at the location of the array formation. Dandan called out. After descending another 10 miles, they stopped. The array formation is coming from behind this rock. Dandan pointed at the rocks in front of them. Dig through the rocks. Lu Ming was the first to make his move. The war god spear spun rapidly, like a drill, piercing into the wall. Zzz, bang bang bang. The wall immediately emitted an ear-piercing sound. Sparks flew in all directions, and then, pieces of rock shattered. The rocks here? It was a little too hard. With Lu Ming's cultivation and the war god spear, the digging speed? It wasn't very fast. But was this normal? Was this the interior of the Qi Meridian? After being nourished by the heavenly passage divine light for many years, ordinary rocks would become incomparably hard. It was like a divine weapon. Bone Demon? Qiu Qiu and Qiu Qiu also dug the rocks together. The others did not make a move. They were on guard against any unexpected situations. Although the rocks were hard, but in Lu Ming's case, Bone Demon? With the three of them working together, a large hole was quickly dug out. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. Lu Ming's war god spear pierced a ray of light, but it didn't budge at all. Stop, we're here. Formation ripples? This is the place. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming and the other two stopped. Dandan? He observed carefully. What a powerful formation. What a profound formation. Wonderful, truly wonderful. Dandan sighed. His eyes shone with a golden light as if he had seen a priceless treasure. I say, Dandan, can you break this array? The myriad deities asked. If it was in the past, I would truly not be able to do it. However, after the trip to the 10,000 transformations ruins, I am no longer the same as before. Furthermore, this spirit formation has, after all, existed for far too many years. There are already flaws in it. Breaking it is not difficult at all. At the very most, I will need 3 days to succeed, Dandan said. 3 days? If it takes that long, then wouldn't the treasures under the Chi Meridian be completely plundered by others? The myriad deities said. This is very likely a cave dwelling left behind by a mighty figure from the previous era. If that mighty figure left behind some treasures, those desolation gems would not be able to compare to them, Dandan said. In the end, Lu Ming and the others were persuaded by Dandan to guard him while Dandan began to break the formation with all his might. Dandan transformed into his true form. His tortoise shell shone brightly as dense runes appeared on it. He began to study the formation here. Dandan's research was not only to break the formation, but also to learn from him. His understanding of the Tao of formations would become deeper and deeper, which was also a form of improvement. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Break! Dandan shouted softly as he pushed his palm forward. In front of his palm were dense runes. These runes constantly intertwined with each other, forming a circular pattern. The circular pattern was imprinted on the formation in front of him. The formation immediately fluctuated violently. After a while, a gap appeared on the formation. Success! This gap will last for a few hours. I have already sensed that there is no danger inside the formation. Let's go in, Dandan said. After saying that, he took the lead and entered the gap in the formation. Immediately after, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others also entered the gap. The next moment, they appeared in a cave. The cave was not big, only about 10 meters in radius. The furnishings in the cave were also very simple. There was only a stone table and 2 stone stools. On the ground on the other side there was a futon. Other than that, there was nothing else. Everyone's gaze fell on the stone table first, because there were some things placed on the stone table. First of all, there were 12 iron tablets. Each iron tablet was not big, only the size of a baby's palm. They were very simple and filled with the traces of time. Mysterious runes were engraved on them. In addition, there was a book placed beside the tablets. The book was made of an unknown material. It was neither gold nor jade. Lu Ming used his forbidden power to grab the book, and found that it was intact. The material of this book was definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, it would not have been able to remain intact after so many years. The book was about a few dozen pages. Unfortunately, Lu Ming did not recognize any of the words on it. Do you recognize the words on it? Lu Ming asked. He handed the book to Xian Yanqing and the others to take a look. Unfortunately, after looking around, they did not recognize any of the words either. The words of the last epoch are completely different from the words of the various races today. However, after so many years of research, we have deciphered many of them. I also recognize some of the words of the last epoch, but I have never seen this kind of language before, Tang Jun said with a slight frown. She speculated that this kind of language was very likely a relatively niche language in the last epoch. What a pity! Lu Ming and the others sighed. Generally speaking, this kind of ancient book was very precious. It was very likely that it recorded powerful formations or powerful chi refinement techniques of the last epoch, or even profound alchemy techniques, blacksmithing techniques, and so on. It was a wealth that could be passed down and revitalized a faction. It was more precious than many natural treasures. However, if they did not recognize it, it was pointless. They could only keep it for now and find a chance to decipher it in the future. Following this, their gazes turned to the 12 metal tiles. What are these tiles for? Myriad God picked up a tile and carefully examined it. Other than finding that this metal tile was ridiculously hard, he did not discover anything else. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Bone Devil, Tang Jun, and the others also picked up a tile and examined it, but they also did not discover anything. The metal tiles were nearly identical in appearance. Only the runes on them were somewhat different. Could this be a joint attack formation used by God Lords or above? Dandan suddenly said after looking at it for a while, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. A joint attack formation used by God Lords or above. Are these the runes on it? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.